To order the Murray City Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, March 7th at 2024. It is 6:32. Present this evening, we have Commissioners Jake Pearson, Michael Richards, Lisa Milkevich, Michael Henry, Pete Harusta. Say it one more time for me. Haristo. I will get that. And I am the chair, Maren Patterson. Excused is Ned Hacker this evening. We have from staff Zach Smallwood and Mustafa Al-Janabi that will be presenting for us. We welcome the public. Thank you so much for being here. We love when you attend our meetings. Some etiquette items to review. We ask that you take a moment to silence your cell phones. When the time comes, there will be an opportunity to make a public comment. And if you would like to do that, we ask you that you come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record that we keep for all of these meetings. It is also being recorded, and so anyone that is watching the recording cannot hear you if you're not speaking into the microphone. We ask that you limit your public comment to 3 minutes and that you don't restate any information that has already been presented to the commission. Once the item that you are here for is over, you are welcome to leave, but we do ask that you leave quietly because we have more agenda items to get to in our meeting. If you are viewing this meeting online on the live stream, there is no way to make a public comment on either the Facebook live stream or the YouTube. So you would need to email in to planningcommission@murray.utah.gov. If you leave a comment in the comment section, it will not be seen. All right. We will move on to agenda item number 1. We have minutes from the November 16th, 2023 meeting and the January 4th, 2024 meeting. Have all the commissioners had an opportunity to review those minutes?
Yes.
Okay, and there were no corrections or changes in the pre-meeting, so I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from November 16th, 2023 and January 4th, 2024.
Great, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect. We'll move on to conflicts of interest. Do any of the commissioners have a conflict of interest with any of our agenda items this evening?
No.
No.
No, neither do I. Okay. Agenda item number 3 is approval of finding of facts, which we have none this evening. So we will move to our main body of our meeting. There has been a proposal that we move agenda item number 10, which is our MCCD strategic area plan item, up to our first item. So is there anyone that would like to make a motion to move agenda item number 10 to agenda item number 4?
I'll make a motion that we move agenda item number 10 to agenda item number 4.
Okay, is there a second on that motion?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Okay, great. Then we will start with our agenda item number 10, which is going to be presented to us from Zach Smallwood.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Chair Patterson. This is a request from the planning staff to amend the general plan and adopt the MCCD strategic area plan. It's located, so the MCCD area is everything in that orange. It roughly equates 4800 South down to the south of Vine Street, and then approximately from Box Elder to Center Street from east to west. So a little bit of background and history for you. So in 2011, the MCCD zone was adopted. It was proposed to be a multi-phased project. As you can see here on the slides, multiple planning commission meetings, design review committees, open houses, and city council was presented. You can see what the area plan looked like in 2011, or was proposed to be looked at. You can see that relocation of some historic buildings along some park blocks, and then resulting in a multi phase project that would end up with anywhere from a minimum of 4 stories up to 30 or 40 stories at the time. And you can kind of see the materiality that was proposed. That was how the MCCD was originally written in 2011. Since then, there have been amendments, excuse me, between 2017 and today, approximately 6 text changes have been made to the MCCD. We've lowered the heights down to 10 stories, reduced the unlimited density down to 80 units per acre, increased parking requirements, et cetera. So in 2022, the RDA commissioned a citywide scientific survey, sent out approximately 10,000 surveys, and 939 responded, which is a significant, they were able to do a significant, I can't think of the word. Thank you, significant analysis of that data. And then based on that survey, they needed some additional information. So the RDA approved the development of this strategic plan in 2023 to determine materiality, massing, and overall look and feel for the downtown. So it's comprised of a few chapters, and I apologize, let me pull this up here. Okay. So the first chapter is pretty much just an introduction explaining exactly the same thing that I just explained to you, just where we're at here. And then second is existing conditions analysis, looking at a baseline of the area. So this was really tailored towards Block 1 and Block 2. So Block 1 is located here, 48th to 5th Avenue. To Hanauer Street and then back up. Block 2 is 5th Avenue down to Vine Street. So part of that is a demographic analysis. In order to pull demographics at this fine grain is really difficult. So a lot of what's in the plan for you is citywide data, looking at population change and educational attainment, et cetera, typical things that are in most planning documents. Then we get here to the built environment. So the main, the overall findings for this area is that surface parking lots constitute majority of the historic downtown area. There's a mismatch between the historic district status and the area's urban design elements. Pedestrian infrastructure is minimal and bicycle-only infrastructure doesn't exist. Various occupants throughout the district have resulted in a mixed-use downtown. The new City Hall, Hanauer Street, and other public investments are catalysts for change. And then the RDA-owned properties are a prime opportunity to expand the downtown's footprint and improve the experience. So I'll give you a little bit of background on that. I'll go back to this. So the RDA-owned property is from this corner on 48th and Vine over to Hanauer Street, and then down to the historic Murray, or the, I apologize, the Murray Mansion property, and then goes over back along 5th to State, goes up, and then it does, so you can kind of see this little, where the asphalt was repaved. All of that area is not owned by the RDA, but everything around it is. So the RDA area is kind of what you're, when it talks about the RDA owned properties and reinvestment in that, that's specifically what it's speaking to. So they provided, or they conducted a SWOT analysis on the plan. And, you know, downtown Murray is naturally recognized with the historic district is, so I'll go through some of these. The strengths: downtown area is less than a mile from Front Runner and Track Station, Murray Central, providing a critical non-vehicular connection to the entire metro area. Downtown Murray is already a solidified mixed-use district, joined by the residential on the fringes, with some varied commercial occupants. The MCCD design guidelines regulate the district during the design review process. They are advisory and not compulsory, meaning that any projects that come forward, they don't have to meet the letter of the design guidelines. They're really just advisory and reviewing. So the current zoning code is a well thought out code, does help provide that urban feel. It's detailed and achieves the value set forth. So weaknesses are limited landscaping throughout the district, which increases the urban heat island effect and makes pedestrian and bicycle activity less pleasant. Urban design mismatch between the historic district status and the area's urban design elements. Again, kind of minimal pedestrian infrastructure, and then compounds, the lack of bicycle-only infrastructure in that area. So opportunity, being that Murray is a regional retail commercial destination, most of the shopping obviously happens around Fashion Place Mall. The destinations are close and well connected via transit. We are a local government, a certified local government with the Utah State Historic Preservation Office. Downtown's proximity to front runner and transit stations. We do have a relatively young, highly educated, growing population. RDA-owned property, again, is an opportunity there. And then new medium-density development generating significant tax revenue and additional pedestrian traffic. Then threats to this area, tractor-trailer traffic along State Street contributes to significant noise and air pollution in the area. The speed limit of 40 miles per hour along State is a threat to pedestrian and bicycle safety. Again, hammer this home, surface parking lots is a majority of the downtown area, threatening that urban nature and feel for the downtown. And then the current minimum vehicle parking requirements raise the development costs for new construction. So that's kind of going over the existing conditions analysis. So there was a public input, like I had mentioned. Part of this was part of the 2022 Y2 Analytics Survey, and then also the consultants that we worked with did an additional survey to help guide some of the information. So 81% of the respondents support downtown revitalization. 82% always or nearly always drive to the downtown, while 70% report that they sometimes walk or take public transit. So a 3.6 out of 5 for accessibility and ease of transportation to and within downtown was shown at 3.6. 60% of the respondents reported safety concerns that need to be addressed in the downtown area. And then also a need for casual restaurants, full-service restaurants, retail, boutique stores, and entertainment venues were ranked as the 5 most important private amenities and services to have downtown. So I'll get to the elephant in the room, and that was this map here. So in the plan, it mentions the properties that we're anticipating being kept and the anticipation of being torn down. All these buildings that were listed as potential for being torn down are based on communications with the property owner or developers or both. And this does not mean that the city is proposing to demo these buildings. This was just based on the analysis of the plan and talking with the developers and property owners of the area. So overall, what does the property owner, or what does the plan recommend? The plan recommends implementing a form-based code within 2 years. The responsible party is Murray City. I can say right now we are currently working on implementing a form-based code. The pictures here on your right are to illustrate the form, the building type, the massing that we're looking for, what the citizens have called for to look at in developing this form-based code. They often cited Holidays Town Center, a historic feel, and so we do recognize that and plan on doing that in a form-based code. Recommendation 2 is update and enforce the downtown design guidelines. Again, looking at that in the next 0 to 2 years, and Murray City looking at that. Recommendation 3 is perform a parking warrant analysis. This is more midterm, so 3 to 6 years. So after some projects get up and off the ground, perform a parking warrant analysis to see how much parking truly is needed for downtown. The 4th is create infrastructure projects schedule to improve multimodal accessibility. Again, this would be to locate places for bicycle infrastructure, pedestrian-only infrastructure. Again, doing that project schedule within the next 2 years. Recommendation 5, this one is a longer term, partner with UDOT to improve multimodal accessibility on State Street. The reason why this one is a long term is that UDOT is the owner of State Street, and they control what gets put on State Street. So lane widths and accesses and et cetera. And they have been notoriously hard to work with. Recommendation 6 is program public spaces within downtown Murray. Again, short term, I can adequately say it's been mentioned in previous public meetings. We're starting that process now on developing a kind of a historic plaza area near the mansion and the Townsend House. We've contracted with a landscape architect to kind of give us some ideas on how that might provide some additional green space just east of this plaza right outside here as well. Recommendation number 6 is negotiate and enter into a master development agreement for the RDA-owned property in downtown Murray. This is 3 to 6 year time frame. We hope to speed that up a little bit, I hope. And then recommendation 8, if downtown revitalization efforts are successful, expand the scope of the study to the east side of State Street. Again, 7 to 10 year time frame. So some of the findings that were in the staff report, general plan provides direction and implementation of the 5 key initiatives of the general plan. The requested amendment has been carefully considered based on public input and review of city planning best practices. The recommendations outlined in the plan provide clear objective goals for the city to move forward in implementing the plan and furthering redevelopment in the downtown. And the proposed amendment is in harmony with the goals and initiatives of the Murray City General Plan. Also, we sent out 326 notices, and as of right when we started our pre-meeting, I believe we had about nine emailed comments in, which were provided. Well, 8 that were provided to you, 1 that I have to read later on. So staff is recommending that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the proposed amendment to the general plan, adopting the MCCD strategic area plan as reviewed in the staff report. So I am happy to take any questions. Yeah.
I have a question. I've reading through the report, the RDA and the, what's the other committee? MCCD Review Committee, and then ourselves reading through the report. The questions always come back to the Mercantile Building and the Harker Building, the 2 on State Street. Does the city own those buildings?
No.
So someone else owns them? And there's a whole process for them to do what they want with their buildings, right? Whether they keep it, whether they tear it down, there's processes for both.
Correct.
And so we would have to follow those processes. It's really out of our control at this time because we don't own it.
Correct.
Okay. That's my first question.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, yeah, to add on to that, meaning the property owner would decide if they would want to redevelop it according to this code or keep it or knock it down or whatever. Like, that's
exactly.
not it. This code or these recommendations wouldn't affect what that property owner would be doing with their property, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So what we're wanting to do. So again, this plan was to look at what the community provided us in context. We had a steering committee that included representatives of the Historic Murray First Foundation, included the property owners like Desert Star, the Wrights, so the costume shop, things like that. We also had a number of local Murray citizens that were on this board that really provided feedback on this plan as well. And then also as part, we had 2 public open houses where the consultants went through and provided kind of like a visual preference. People were able to write comments on pictures of things they liked, things they didn't like, and all that resulted in kind of these drawings here. So one of the things that is interesting, or these are just proposals of what something could look like. This is not a specific development at this time. This is just to help guide as we move forward in writing a code, a form-based code, hopefully, that will help inform developers that when they come forward to the city with a project, that it should look historic in nature and have those traditional elements, those design elements that really harken back to that.
Mr. Smallwood, reading through this packet, it sounds like the city perhaps maybe has listened to the things that have been said in all these other meetings. I mean, in the sense that now we're talking, it's not the ordinance yet, but everything that's said in this packet talks about 4 stories.
4
And-
stories at max, yeah.
And historic brick and facades that address the historic need. So I think we're getting closer to listening.
What other questions do you have for staff? No other questions? Yeah.
I'm still trying to get this question to where it makes sense, but with what is proposed in here, what does it change as far as what the planning commission in the future would have to review and decide on, or with our responsibility as the land use authority?
Sure. So right now, this is just, this is providing direction to the planning staff. So we've worked with the community and the property owners, I'm sorry, not property owners, the consultant in drafting this area, this strategic plan. And so what happens here is that, it went to the MCCD review committee, they made the recommendation. Then it goes to you and you make a recommendation to the city council. And then once the city council decides whether to adopt or not adopt this plan, then that then provides staff. So say like for some reason, the rest of us all of us up here just disappeared one day, right? It provides the people that come next, the information on what to do and how to pick up the pieces and move forward with the development of projects and codes and, everything listed in the recommendation. So this really, what this will eventually end up with, so say like we end up developing a form-based code. That form-based code would still have to come, this is saying that the planning commission saying, yes, go forward with implementing a form-based code. And then what that means is that when one is developed, we would still need to come before the planning commission to have you review that form-based code to make sure that it is meeting the intentions of this plan and the intentions of the community and make sure that everything is squared up. So it does not do anything to remove the land use authority's approval status. This is a plan. This is literally planning and moving the city forward.
And to piggyback that question, I'll ask a question I asked in the pre-meeting. So currently, now I can't remember, we're not a form-based code right now, we're in a ordinance-based? What?
So it's a traditional
Okay,
zoning,
so
yeah.
currently we have traditional zoning in place. We're discussing changing that to a form-based code so that we can have an outcome that looks more like what the public is requesting. So, and the question I asked is, what does that mean with our current coding? Do we put it on hold? Is there a pause until we get our form-based developed, or is it in place continuously?
It's in place until the new code is adopted formally, is the 100% answer.
So those who don't like what we have in the ordinance currently want us to hurry, if they like this better, would
Right.
want us to hurry and put this in place.
I would say that that's probably a fair statement, yeah.
I feel like you started off talking about this and you kind of just explained it, but I mean, I guess can you kind of just review, like an area plan, we do it in other places of the city too, right? Can you talk about like where we've done just like a hyper-focused look at like one just small part of the city?
Yeah, for sure. So we've actually done two fairly recently. We did one around Murray Central Station. I believe that was done in 2018 or 2019. And then we also did one around the Fashion Place West track station. Both of those just hone in deeply on what, so I'll back up a little bit. So we have the general plan. So that looks at the whole city generally, and just looks at broad goals, broad ideas, how the city's doing, how the city's faring. The general plan actually recommends that there's a list of probably like 15 area plans that the city should look into. The transit stations were one, the downtown is another, and so we've been working on those. And this just gets more fine-grained in looking at actual boots on the ground, things for this area.
And I mean, it's even so much that we're only looking at block one, right? Like this area
Yeah.
plan is only block one
Technically,
for
yeah.
now.
Technically,
right?
this plan
Until
is,
it-
is really focused on block one. But as I told the MCCD review committee, I can see, like, if we were to implement a form-based code, it wouldn't just be for block one. That would be irresponsible, I think. You would need to do a form-based code for the entire MCCD area.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
I think this question at hand is a simple question that's related to bigger concerns. So we won't dig into those bigger concerns. Now that I've said I won't, I'm just going to throw two things out there.
Okay.
Every time we talk about the NCCD area, we talk about programming because we want the community to be there all the time. And yet, I hope we continue that discussion because I'm not sure we've really actually put anything in place that's self-programming, like a ice skating rink or a water pad or whatever is appropriate for our community.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what I mentioned in kind of my review, is that we have engaged with a landscape architect. I meet with her tomorrow morning, actually, to do kind of the pre-kickoff. So we will be working with the community as well, developing some ideas for what that space should be. It's going to be really exciting. I'm glad there are a lot of people here to hear me say that, so that you can all be a part of that as well, because it is going to be focused on the Townsend House and the mansion as well.
That's the second part of my comment that I want to add in there is every time we have these discussions about the NCCD area, we end up talking about State Street, the west side and the east side. And then at some point we get back to State Street is somewhat out of our control. It's fast, it's not comfortable and communal. We really need to focus off of State Street to make a
Correct.
community space.
Yep.
We just gotta remember that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, that's why in some of these photos you can see here, or in these renderings, there's these cuts in the building that actually go back. So you can't see it very well here, but there's a cut right through that building that goes out to straight State Street, but then also brings you back in.
So there could be a farmer's market in that parking lot.
Of course, yeah, there could be a lot of things that happen in this parking lot. And so that's really, and I'm trying to see if I have any, there's And I apologize, I didn't include a full top-down picture of it. So, I guess right here, this kind of shows it. So, like, this is the area I'm talking about right here is where I meet with the landscape architect is to, work on developing something there. So, this is kind of the whole area.
Well, reading over the plan, I guess basically, I've been on the commission long enough to have remembered the 2011 MCCD plan and the many iterations that we've gone through to get here. And this, having the 8 recommendations, I feel like one thing that's been hard about the MCCD is it's been like big ideas, but we've been lost a little bit about how to do that. And so having the 8 recommendations seems like a path forward, like a bite-sized chunk forward. Also, I think it's different than other plans and things I've heard about developing Block 1, because I remember being here where there was a plan to take down everything on State Street and build one big, long development that would all be like one controlled owner that would go all the way back to the Murray Mansion, like a really, really big, massive development. And so I like this, I like the individual development potential that these recommendations I feel like encourage, rather than one big developer coming in and doing all of Block 1, that it's more like just pieceable, right? Like people could develop
Yep.
in different like pieces. So,
Definitely.
but I feel like those, having 8 steps or recommendations kind of helps us actually take some steps of moving forward about that. So,
Yes.
are there any other questions for staff? No. Okay. Then we will open the public comment portion of our meeting. Again, I mentioned that we would like you to come to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record, and we will be keeping track of time. So we'll give you a little warning if you're at your 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name's Margaret Paul. I'm the Vice President of the Historic Murray First Foundation, and I'm a retired certified city planner with 30 years' experience. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about our mission. Our mission is dedicated to
I'm sorry.
advocacy.
Real quick, could you just provide your address for the record?
I live at 4858 South, 1300 East.
Thank you.
Our mission is dedicated to advocacy, education, fundraising for the historic buildings in Murray. And I want to tell you why I became a city planner. I went away to college from my hometown, and every time I came back, it looked different. Every summer, every Christmas break, my town was being developed, and I was missing the historic fabric that made me feel at home. And so I have a sincere passion to preserve the history of Murray. And I feel like Zach, I was at the MCCD committee meeting, and I feel like Zach glossed over some of their recommendations, which included preservation of the Harker and Mercantile buildings, because they were on the cover of the report. And they asked for those buildings to be changed to green. And the importance of a master plan is that when a property owner does come in and ask you for a zone change or ask you for a demolition permit, you can point to your master plan and you can say, well, but we have a plan that advocates for the preservation of these buildings. And if the color on this map isn't as important, then let's put everything as green. Why keep, if you're saying that it doesn't really matter what color it is, then get rid of the yellow altogether. I mean, the city of Murray is the owner of everything on that block except those two buildings. And so Murray City, could have asked for grant money, historic preservation incentives to renovate those buildings after they evicted the antique dealer that was there for years and years, but they didn't. They let it demolition by neglect, which is.
30 seconds.
Okay. I'd also like to draw your attention to page 23 of the report, which I think Zach overlooked some of the recommendations from the public input synopsis. On page 23, it says 1 to 3 stories was one of 5 most important development characteristics in downtown. Historic building rehab was one of 5 most important elements for an improved downtown. Preservation of existing facades was also highlighted in this public input synopsis of this document. And do you know how many times historic was in this report? 29 times. The word historic shows up in this report in all kinds of ways, in all kinds of meanings. And yet, the most significant part of Murray's historic downtown is proposed to be torn down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janice Strobel. I live on Wasatch Street, 250 East, so it's just a couple more blocks to the east. And so this is my neighborhood, and when I walk to work, I walk right through this area. And when I do go to work on my car, it's 4800 South that I take every day. I do really appreciate the work that was done with this strategic plan. I think a lot of it, that for the better part, all of the recommendations are very important and very much needed. I do also want to say my understanding is that this strategic plan, one of the goals behind getting this strategic plan to get approved is it will be a framework for what gets put out for the RFP for Block 1. And so it will be very influential because the city really wants to see Block 1 get developed. And so it will be very, very influential in what it says in that, what the strategic plan says will be very influential in how the RFP is drafted. And I've got notes here. I really appreciated Zach getting me the packet. I had tried to figure out how to find the packet, and it was, he said it was 330 pages, so it was very difficult to get it where it normally is, but he gave it to me where they had put it, but we didn't know, personally where to go. So I went and looked at it really quickly this afternoon and was able to review the Design Review Committee's minutes, which I really appreciated. And I do agree wholeheartedly with what Margaret said about that there were some good recommendations that they gave in addition to what was in the strategic plan, and that is in looking at what we have downtown right now is a historic district, nationally registered historic district. If the historic buildings that are recognized in that historic district as contributing go away, if we get under 50%, we should be delisted from that being a historic district. That means then that
30 seconds.
others won't be able to, those that are historic buildings won't be able to get the tax benefits in that. So I think we really need to pay attention to that. And one thing I do want to say, yes, DAR Properties owns Murray Mercantile in the Harker Building, but now with the many iterations that have happened for the MCCD, the historically significant properties there's not any real protection for those historically significant properties in our downtown anymore. So yes, the owner will be able to do whatever they want to with that building, those buildings. And when the RFP was done previously and Edelin had their plan, they had already negotiated a purchase of those two buildings. So it's very, very likely that when the RFP goes out, and it will be marked that those two buildings are not owned by the city, but it will be very likely that whoever the developer is will be talking to DAR Properties. And if we're saying that we're ready for those to go away, that they will work at being able to purchase it and make it the plan that the strategic plan is
That's your
kind of
time.
visualizing. Okay.
Thank
so-
you.
Thank you. That this is the only affordable housing, truly affordable housing that we have right now, is Townsend Apartments there.
Any other comments?
Hi, my name's Lloyd Jones. I live at 5151 South, 6th East. Just a couple of points that I would like to bring out. Regarding the references to the Y2 analytics, I think it's important to note that it's not just the historic nature, but that the actual statement is restore and maintain the historic character of the downtown. So it encapsulates more than just saying, yeah, we're going to give a nod to some sort of historical nature by putting another white cap or a Art Deco nod here or there to these renderings that have been provided. And I recognize and I appreciate Mr. Smallwood's statement that they're just renderings. That's not what's going to happen there. And I acknowledge that. It's mentioned already about the Edelin proposal, but I'm not really seeing much difference in the renderings other than the level of the height of the buildings is going down. In order to keep historic, why are we trying to build something new and make it look, I guess the term would be retro? Why not keep the historic buildings, keep the National Registry historic registration that we have in Murray, and focus on being able to meet what the public has already described in the Y2 survey that was done, along with the public comment that was made in the open houses during the Edelin proposal a couple of years back. Now, Murray City has removed, and I recognize Ms. Malkovich's comment that those private owners can do whatever they want with those buildings. They can definitely more easily now than they could before, when the Murray City Council removed the historic preservation requirements,
30 seconds.
and they can make that change. So I think we need to look at that very closely and understand what the public has stated, and make sure that is taken into account. It's becoming form over function, I think, in the new proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Ulrich, 4948 Glen Street. I moved here probably in 1997, and the one thing I liked about Murray was the sense of community, small town. And when I look at this, I realize it's not a final thing, but think about going vertical with your parking, because I see a lot of asphalt. That's kind of, but the other thing, State Street is kind of a pain in the butt, but look at it as an asset. How can we drive traffic to small businesses? But second of all, how can we connect east to West Murray to unite Murray? So that's kind of my comments, is a lot of this will work out, but just try to connect the two sides of the street. So,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Hi there, Commissioners. My name is David Rogers. I live at 5235 South Glendon Street, and I currently work as a transportation planner here in Salt Lake County, and so I just wanted to give a shout out to staff for the work that they've done. I came to the open houses, I participated in the survey, and I just wanted to acknowledge the emphasis here on active transportation, on making it a more walkable corridor, on emphasizing bike infrastructure. I do believe that by emphasizing active transportation, we promote a healthier and more active and more involved community. And I feel like in our downtown area where we're looking at these different plazas, the plaza we have right here outside City Hall, the potential historic district around the Murray Mansion and the Townsend House, I believe these are great areas that we can really use to bring people together, to bring the community together, specifically through active transportation. So I just wanted to say thank you for the emphasis on that.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm John. I've been in Salt Lake for 55 of my 57 years.
Will you state your
Grew up
address?
there. I'm at 4840 South State in the apartments.
Thank you.
Okay, it's the nicest building right there. Can't believe you won't sew something into it. But in your plan, you guys didn't even mention about the people you're gonna displace. And that kind of bothers me. It's like, what have you thought about? What are you gonna do with these people that you're gonna make homeless and put on the street?
We'll address all comments after the public comment portion. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Robert. I live at 4840 South State Street, apartment 1317. I am more like, I've actually, when the last time this came up, this proposal came up, and in 2021, wasn't it? I think, yeah. I actually talked to the owner and everything then about this whole thing. He didn't even need to know that, he was never saying anything about negotiations, but after that fact, me and the president of Historic Murray met with somebody with the city to talk about the old Rice costumes to turn it back into the happy hour theater, to try to make a theater district for Murray and to try to drive some business into the district and to help bring in some more money. We've never heard back from any of you guys about that unless that's changed. I'm not sure. I've always looked at these buildings like these are blank canvases that we can easily get grants to fix up. That the old antique mall, the costume shop, we can literally turn them into something new. Like costume shop, we can turn into a mixed-use theater because it was a theater at one time. We can make it into, and it was all dance hall at one time too. We can do one where it's like a mixed-use theater, dance hall kind of hybrid where we could still be bringing money in. It would bring people here because when the dance hall was open, I remember having to find parking spots after work. It was not easy. Not bitching, but I was like, hey, at least we're bringing money in. The antique mall, we could easily turn into a cafe that can have a stage, that we could turn into a comedy club as well. And we can be bringing in money. We can be doing these little things that actually bring people in and make them stay. Like we got the Desert Star right across the street. We do theater, a small theater district. We have Sundance here already in Utah. We can try to entice some people to come on. Hey, we can bring you guys down here a little bit, bring in some money to the city. I don't see why we should be tearing these buildings down. I see potential in what we have, and like other people have stated, that if we lose too many buildings, we lose our historical preservation, we lose our spots and everything. And growing up in a spot in a city that actually had an entire historical district that was protected and basically gave everybody grants and helped them as much as they can. I'm seeing this is like, you don't want to do this because I have seen
30 seconds.
what can happen in other parts of where I grew up, where they have tore down their buildings and they've had to hike up pricing on everything and people moved out. Keeping historical buildings, keep pricing down. I live in the buildings. That's the only thing I can afford because everything else got kicked is too high for me. And I am working my ass off trying to own a house in this crazy market. But I can honestly tell you that destroying these buildings is like the worst decision ever, and they should be green, not yellow. These all should be green. We should be getting grants from states and the federal to renovate them and turn them into something new, instead of just making them look new or tearing them down and building something that's retro.
Thanks, thank you.
Linda Fox and I live on
Will you-
4928.
Will you
South-
make sure you speak right into that? You can move the microphone down. Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Linda Fox, I live on 4928 South Wassett Street. Part of the thing I'm really frustrated with is every time we have these meetings, every time we talk, we keep saying, make it look historical or work with it. But if you look at the building on Vine Street that you built, that thing's humongous. It doesn't have any historic look to it. This building, the fire station, you had chances to make these things look historic and you didn't. So every time you build something, you make it look modern. So I just feel like you're losing the historic part of Murray. You have no more historic because you keep changing everything to brand new. And with the fire station, that thing doesn't even have matching windows. You've got aluminum on the top and black on the bottom. I mean, who is your design people that you don't have more control over them? I mean, it's very frustrating as a resident to see this. You say, well, you didn't come soon enough, you didn't do whatever. That building on Vine is giant. I mean, if you live where I live in one of the bigger houses, it still just towers over everything. It doesn't look historic. All I worry about is what's going to happen with the traffic zone. I mean, it's just as very frustrating as a citizen of Murray to see that you don't care about this historic sense of Murray. You don't try to make them look historic. Mill Creek made their buildings look historic. Why don't you guys care at all to do that?
We'll address all of your public comments after the public comment portion is closed.
Hi, my name is Alexis Palmer. I live on 438 East Vine. And I have steadily been observing all the new plans, procedures, things that have come across the ballots over the years, as well as the initiatives sent out by Murray City. And this plan has deeply upset me. One, because it doesn't actually reach a lot of the goals you want. It doesn't preserve a historic nature. A lot of the design renderings, I know they're proposals, but they don't have the historic feel. Anyone who has been up to the Holiday area where they have revitalized, tried to make it more historic, it looks like a grandiose reiteration, like to point blank say, it doesn't look historic. It looks like a grand gesture to make it look new and to bring in the community. If you've been up there on a hot sunny day, nobody's walking around in front of those historically looking bright marble buildings. You know, they're all going to the quiet, shady parts. They're not sitting in these little avenues or right along the street. And it's just, I don't want that for Murray. Murray has a very historic feel to it, and these renderings don't even accomplish a lot of the goals. You want to add more green space. Well, there's only a good half a block of green space that you're taking over. Otherwise, all that parking lot is still all there. You're still contributing to the asphalt jungle. By having more buildings, that doesn't necessarily diminish that heat wave problem either. And I'm not seeing that it's any more walkable for the populace than it is now. I walked through here literally maybe a month ago, and it was walkable, and it was quiet. As we try to divert
30
traffic,
seconds.
as we try to divert traffic from these areas, you're gonna make it less walkable. You're not gonna achieve your goals by tearing down these buildings. You're literally just making a different rendering of the same problem. I think we need to readdress and redesign and refocus on the goals. Because I want a walkable Murray. I lived in Europe for several months. I know what that looks like, and this isn't it. So I want those goals to be reached, but this isn't it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ben Peck. I live at 5235 Glendon Street. I'll give you a change of pace and come at you from the other side. I do think historic preservation is important, but I'm not opposed to this plan, but I would just say, looking at it, there's still a lot of asphalt in this new form, and that seems problematic to me for a walkable proposal. There's still over half, it looks like, from a glance, is gonna be just surface parking lots. And limiting to less than 4 stories, I understand that that is due to a lot of public feedback on that, but currently some of these buildings that are marked in yellow are only a single story. Most of them are, I think, and that's just, doesn't really say downtown to me, a single story surrounded by parking lots. So I think that it's vital that if we want to revitalize this area, that we reduce the parking dramatically and increase the density so that people actually live here. Because currently, what it is now is some historic building surrounded by a crater of parking, and that's not a good place to be. And if we take as long as we did last time when this plan came out in 2011, before anything happens again, that'll be a shame. So, thank you.
Hello, Bree Tyson. I live on 4769 South Box Elder Street. I just wanted to clarify a couple things because I was confused. I thought on the proposal it said that we're going to lower them to 6 stories, but all of the renderings show, I think at the most I counted 4 stories. So I don't feel like we're getting an accurate look of what that's going to look like when we're saying possibly 6, and we're only seeing at the most 4. Also, living on Box Elder, we have lots of parking issues. I can't barely get turned out of Box Elder onto 48th. I often turn around and go out to State Street to get where I need to go. The traffic flow is not being managed well. I don't know how much the city controls that. Maybe we need to think about putting in a signal. We also took down the sky bridge that went from the junior high to the high school. Our students walk. I don't know if you guys have kids that walk between Hillcrest and Murray, but there's lots of kids walking and the traffic flow is ridiculous. Maybe we need to reconsider a way to get our kids back and forth, especially with the education. Well, I know that the boundaries are possibly being reconfigured for the 9th and 12th graders, so I guess that's not a point. Anyhow, I appreciate you guys being here. I just would like more notice. It often seems like, I know schedules are hard, meetings get scheduled and then rescheduled and make them difficult for us to get here with notice and time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question before you start my time? Sure. If someone's speaking on behalf of a group, are they given 5 minutes instead of 3?
Yes.
Okay, so if anyone's speaking on behalf of a group, you should know that. My name.
Oh, I think you might have turned the mic off. Is there a button at the bottom?
There we go. I'm Rachel Moreau. I live at 41 East Arrowhead Lane. I am the former vice president of Historic Murray First Foundation. I am currently not on the board, and so I'm not taking 5 minutes. I think that the people in Murray that have shown up and will read the public comments should know that the steering committee, I was the one who was representing on the steering committee from Historic Murray First Foundation. And it started out well. The first meeting started out well. There's a lot of enthusiasm from the consultant, and then there were some changes made within the city staff. And I don't know what happened after that, but it was significantly worse situation. Meetings were rescheduled last minute. They were changed from in-person to Zoom, or vice versa. There was very little notice. The consultant was difficult to work with and difficult to get information from. And it was frankly a waste of my time. So toward the end, I stopped bothering with it. And I do notice that there were a lot of other people that were on the steering committee that did not engage to the level that probably could have or would have been ideal if it had been run better. So the steering committee, in my assessment, was not a success. And I stand up because while the city likes to think that they are doing a good job, I've spent significant years and significant of my personal hours advocating with Murray City to try to get them to work with the citizens that want to see their historic neighborhoods saved, and they want to see these buildings saved. And while I appreciate on a personal level all of the people in Murray City, some of them are my friends, I appreciate them, I don't approve of the fact that there's a lot of proof texting that happens and confirmation bias. So while listening is happening, it's only happening on a partial basis. I know this from conversations that I've had
30 seconds.
with the mayor's chief of staff. They think that they know what the citizens want. The citizens want their historic buildings saved. They don't want replacement buildings that sort of look historic. And that's never going to be fully realized because in this day and age it's too expensive to actually replicate a historic look. So we will get a compromise. What we will get in a redevelopment is a compromise look. So if we lose these historic buildings, we lose historic Murray, and people should know that. There's no real compromise that we will be able to get out of this. Thank you.
That's your time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy May, 6261 Cedar Street. This is my first time attending one of these hearings. I thought this one was important. You stated you wanted to have your little park with water features. You said a farmer's market. We have a park just down the street. There's a farmer's market just down the street. There's an ice skating rink just down the street. I don't think we need to have all that just up here on the corner, taking just a little bit of this block. Maybe just allow low-income housing in these areas. Murray needs more low-income housing. Don't just cater to all the rich people and all the rich builders that are out there. Just cater, let the low-income people have a big city block. Let them have maybe just a little park playground area. They don't need all this, but just cater to the people who can afford to live here and not all the rich people. They want bigger houses anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Jason. I was hoping I would be the last one here, because I'm not from Murray, right? I love Murray. Murray is a magical place, okay? I'm from Bluffdale. I drive State Street every single day because I love Murray so much.
Sorry, will you just state your first and last name and your address? for
My
the
name is
record?
Jason Weber. I live at 146, or 1480 South, 2200 West in Bluffdale. Like I said, I absolutely love Murray. I used to be a Murrayite when I was a kid. I lived in Vine Villa Apartments. We moved out west, but I love Murray, right? The buildings you're gonna tear down, the Harker Building, the Murray Mercantile Building, they're one of the oldest buildings on State Street left, okay? Andrew Harker built both of them, right? His house was right behind there, right behind both of those buildings. The Murray Mercantile Building, those buildings are not just old buildings, they're witness buildings, right? From how many generations, okay? This is a time when these people built, when they didn't have government funding, right? They pulled from the bootstraps, they built these buildings, they had their neighbors help, they had work together, right? Now, I mean, and, you know, it's just sad, you know, I mean, 100 years ago, Murray lost the American Eagle newspaper, 100 years ago. Look at the pictures on there. You can see the Murray Mercantile Building right there, right? I mean, a lot of these buildings, they're just not, you know, they're not being utilized, and it's, you know, it's sad. I mean, you see the building on the corner of State Street and Vine Street, what's the name of it? Who cares? Because it's just a modern building. You're gonna lose the Arlington, remember? You guys just moved over here. You tore down the Grapevine and Frakey and Johnny's that used to be right here. It sat right here, you know? I mean, that empty block on the corner, the Hoffman Building used to sit there. That burned down in the 90s. You guys have waited for 30 years and done nothing with that block. And now you want to rip out half of Murray? You know, Murray, Midvale, and Magna are the only small town, the only towns that have the small town feel left to them. You know, and you're going to take away that magic. You're going to lose your voice. You're going to lose your, you know, I won't drive through here anymore because it's just, I love the feel of it. It's just a beautiful town, you know. And Riverton, you know, Riverton gave up their downtown, you know, and it's just a nightmare. All it is just a pass through to get to Harriman now.
30 seconds.
But I won't take any more time. Like I said, I mean, you want to do on the west side and then want to go to the east side. The Fireman's Hall was more than just a fireman's hall. You know, they had gatherings, they had gatherings and stuff like that, you know. It was more of a community back then than it is now, I believe. But that's just my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chase. I actually live in West Valley.
Will you say your first and last
3892
name, please?
Oh, sorry. My name is Chase Cornell. I live over in West Valley, 3892 West, Landon Circle. I know I don't live here in Murray, but I do come to Murray quite a bit. I actually have family that live in Murray. My grandmother actually lives in Murray as well. So I do come down here quite a bit. I like coming down here. I like seeing the nice big giant thing of Murray Park, and then I enjoy actually coming and seeing some of these old historic buildings compared to all these other things like a giant dealership that's literally, what, not that far away. Like, I'd rather see a historic building than seeing that. And not gonna lie, I get it, it brings business and all that, totally understandable, but it is nice to also still have historic look to it, even when you are surrounded by all these giant modern other buildings. I live in West Valley. It's nothing but either old housing or a bunch of new buildings, and I much prefer some of the older buildings just because I do also enjoy the look. And then another thing I do think about is the fact that if we do add whatever buildings are going to be torn down and then re-added, you also got to think about the water supply here in Utah. We were just in a drought, within these last couple years? And the state has also have gone out and said, yeah, we're no longer in that drought. But the more buildings we put up, the more water that uses, and we're going to end up back in a drought again. I'd rather not see that, whether it's here in Murray or anywhere else. I like seeing a green park. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hello, Brandon Rapley. I don't live in Murray, but I work in Murray.
Will you say an address for us?
Yeah, my address is 633 North, 200 West in Salt Lake City.
Thank you.
So I am a real estate agent, but I am also the interim president for Historic Murray First Foundation. So you probably saw my signs that are for sale on Vine. But I actually do take State Street home just because I love the feeling of seeing these buildings. And I'm actually restoring a house from, it's 146 years old. And I just think that there is, excuse me, a better way to go about it and make it look tasteful. And, you know, just, I think that there is definitely a better way of going about it, I guess, how we put it, not looking like Sugar House, but, sorry. But yeah, I just think there's just a better way to go about it. And if you guys want to talk, I'm more than happy to give you ideas. And there are designs that we can go through. The listings that I do have on Vine, yeah, there's parking structures that can be available to make it so that you guys can get to both theaters and keep that old feeling. And yeah, that's all I have to say. But thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hello. Whoa, been sitting there a long time. Hi, my name is Clark Bullen. I live in District 3 over on Treetop Circle.
What's your, will you say your address?
5051 South, Treetop Circle, Murray, Utah, just behind Camp Price Ballpark. I live in the historic Murray City Center District. I just want to express gratitude for this proposal. I think it represents many years of the city showing that they want to listen to citizens and that they're doing the best that they know how. If you go back to the Edlin project, there was an open house, lots of comments came in. It turns out the Edlin project was not approved for this property on Block 1 based on citizen feedback. After that, the city did a citywide survey and got results back. And on top of that, did this project to develop recommendations based on the survey and more open houses. And so this shows a lot of effort on the city's part, that they have listened and they want to listen more. And I see a lot of elements in here that are good and workable and usable for good recommendations. Now, if this turns into a form-based code and goes into the general plan, then it will be used for all future developments. So I do have some thoughts on what we could do to change it so that we can affect the future direction of Murray based on citizen feedback. So thank you first. I fully agree with the recommendation for a form-based code because that can get us to where the citizens said that they want it to be a historic look in downtown. And it will take in a lot of those comments over the years to make it look like that. I would like to see a citizen committee involved in developing that form-based code so that we actually hit the mark the first time when we put it out there and before developments begin. I agree with the recommendations of MCCD Chair Andy Holka that we need to look at a parking structure possibly on the southwest corner and not have all that parking lot space. This is the heart of the valley. And we should have a plaza there at the top in the middle. We should have promenades on Poplar and Fifth. And it should be very walkable, lots of green space, seating, areas for vendors, art installations, etc. I also agree with Chair Holka that we need to look at preserving the Harker and Merck and change those two to green
30
specifically.
seconds.
What's that?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. And as said, these will be used to create an RFP. And the last project that was developed based on an RFP was the Eatland project. And that was shot down, and that set us back many, many years. So I hear that really what we want to do is get moving on this. So let's do it right the first time and not get another RFP and another project that will get shot down. So seeing as how the precedent is that the only buildings up there that are in yellow marked for being torn down, that the city doesn't own, are the Dar properties, the Harker and Mercantile. We should follow suit, remove those before forwarding the recommendation.
That's your time.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other public comments? All right, then I will close the public comment portion and bring it up to staff to answer.
I had one.
Oh, yes,
I had
sorry.
one
I
email.
will not close the public
Yeah.
comment portion.
Oh, I apologize. I have two emails. First is from Wilbert Lopez, Murray City officials. I am a resident of Murray living close to City Hall at 4800 South and State Street. I would like for the historic buildings and the new plans include that it remains part of our new city. The current trend of high-riser building should not continue. I appreciate your vote to keep Murray a family-oriented city. Thank you, Wilbert Lopez. Next one is from Shelley Eller. Hi, I am a resident of Murray in a historic district and was distressed to hear that the city is planning to tear down more historic buildings to build more apartments. I am vehemently opposed to this. I'm tired of apartment buildings all over our city. Most recently, the huge one that was just built on Vine Street. Apartment dwellers are transient to the community and don't care about the neighborhoods. We live on Atwood Boulevard and are tired of people using it as a cut-through, speeding at much higher speeds than 25 and littering. We need to value these historic buildings. It is what gives charm to an area, not these ugly, boxy apartments. Not everything should be about making money. Please do not tear these buildings down. We don't want more apartments. Sincerely, Shelley Brown.
Did you get any other? No. Okay. I will now close the public comment portion. And I guess, Zach, do you want to just start with addressing some of the?
Madam Chair, may I say something quick?
Sure.
It's just a comment. I think my colleagues up here are more stoic than I am, but I just have to say that myself and everyone else up here are volunteers, members of this community, and for people to stand up and accuse us of doing things we had no control over is discouraging, without even knowing who we are, or our opinion on some of those topics. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay, I will, a lot of these comments I understand completely. Looking at all of them, yes, and I apologize, I did, in your packet is the recommendations from the MCCD meeting, so you were able to see what that committee forwarded on to you. I apologize, I didn't put it in the presentation. It was a mistake on my part. I was doing this until 5:40, but that's not an excuse. So that is correct. He did recommend, the MCCD review committee did recommend changing these two buildings to green as opposed to yellow. And that's entirely up to the commission if you want to move forward with that recommendation or any of the other recommendations that the MCCD committee did give. When it comes to a framework for the RFP, this plan will be involved, that's for sure. But I think what will be more important is before any sort of RFP goes out for block one, it would be working through the form-based code type project. I believe that is what is moving forward with the mayor's office and the RDA are moving forward with something like that before. So mass code changes before anything moves forward.
Mr. Smallwood?
Yeah, please.
Before you move off of that, can I ask you one question?
Sure.
About the Harker and the Mercantile Building, the two historic buildings there. Over and over again, the public has concerns about those buildings, and I feel like maybe I'm hearing the public wants us to do a survey on how much they would cost us to buy it, how much it would cost us to repair it, then survey the public if we want to spend those tax dollars on doing
Well,
that.
we don't even know if it's for sale, right? Like, it's a conversation
that's
that's
a-
hard to have because it's, that
Yeah,
property is
it
not
would
for sale.
require the city to engage the property owner to see if they're even interested in selling the property.
Every time we have a hearing on this, that's the building the public's concerned about, so we probably should engage the owner, see how much it would cost, see how much the repairs would cost, and then put up a vote if the public wants to spend that much in tax dollars to do it. Because we keep saying we want to, but we don't know any of the details at all.
Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
and I guess maybe as a different approach to that, because we are not the property owners, and I don't know if the city wants to be the property owners, but would the city be willing to include any kind of incentives to anyone that either comes in and develops it or the property owner of redeveloping it while keeping the buildings? Like, would that be something that
I think the best incentive would be to offer to buy it, because maintaining this is for another 100 years.
Well, I mean, and that's why it's not probably going to get bought, and if it does, it probably will get redeveloped, because the costs are so high, right, of being able to restore this building, and that is why historic buildings often do not get restored unless the city offers some kind of incentive as a reason
Sure.
to do that, right?
Yeah.
They get rid of, reduce like the impact fees, or reduce the, how many units, or like make it incentivized to actually restore it rather than it getting redeveloped.
Yeah, and that would all have to be done with the city council. The city council has to make those determinations. They're the ones that control the funds in the city.
Right, but is that a recommendation that could be
You
forwarded
could
to the
definitely
city?
put in a recommendation of that.
Okay.
I'm assuming the owner doesn't have the funds to refurbish it, or they would have.
Yeah, and from what I understand, at least the information included in the packet is that the Harker building especially, the main floor commercial has been redone and redeveloped multiple times, and is maybe kind of compromised, just because of how many it has been redeveloped, and that the places above it have not been, restored since they were built, that they're, at least in the information, the historical information that you gave us.
Yeah, I don't have any other records on that.
So that would be quite a bit of restoration because one thing that they run into when we're restoring historical buildings is they have to bring them up to modern building codes.
Correct.
And so that's a very expensive prospect, and not many developers get money from doing that, so unless there is some kind of incentive to do that.
But honestly, it's been 13-plus years of discussing this. Why don't we ask how much it costs, ask how much it costs to refurbish it, and then vote if we want to spend that $12 million or not?
Or more.
And then either be done with it or not done with it.
I mean, and again, that would definitely come from,
Not us.
Right,
That
the
doesn't come
mayor,
from us.
the mayor and the city council would have to make that determination.
Can we discuss also some of the other recommendations from the design review committee? Number 2 was a preference for parking structures as opposed to service parking. And the part that I feel really frustrated about is I feel like in all of their recommendations, they have multiple things that are in conflict. And with recommending that, by lowering our height and lowering our density, therefore, we have made it unfeasible, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, infeasible.
Not cost-effective for any developer to build a parking structure. The costs of building a parking structure
$20,000
have
per
to
parking
be
spot.
offset by density of how many people will live there. So because they have brought the heights down, because they have brought the densities down, surface parking, the other thing that we also learned from those surveys is that people want to be able to drive downtown and have a place to park. If they come downtown, they want to be able to have a place to park. So we need parking, but we've gotten rid of the way that we can incentivize developers to install parking. Even as City Hall, we didn't build a parking structure because it is so expensive. So those two things are in conflict, and I don't know how you move forward with the recommendation of something that actually is not possible to do.
That's, so I know it's one of the city's priorities with the sale of the existing city hall.
But that is so far away, that's not, that, I
No.
mean,
No, the existing city hall, it's under
Oh.
contract.
yeah,
Or,
that's
sorry,
what I mean.
the old
They're
city hall.
adding a parking structure at the old City Hall.
No, the funds coming from that.
Oh, okay.
To invest in parking downtown. That is part of their discussions and what they want to spend some of that money on is to provide structured parking downtown. But, I mean, again, and I'm sorry to correct you, Ms. Milkovich, but it's actually 35,000 per stall.
Per stall. I don't know, that's what I've been told.
Yeah, no, it's 35,000 per stall for structured parking. And last time I checked, that was pre-inflation rates. So it kind of, and that's one of the things that the consultant had a hard time with, is trying to make whatever what these pictures look accurate with as close to the code, as close to what our parking ratios currently are with the size of those buildings as well.
I do have that though in there, it drives me crazy when we keep showing pictures of two-story buildings and then we talk about four-story. That's not fair, but anyway.
Well, and
that's-
if
Well, I
you'll
mean-
notice, some of the two-story buildings are like offset, right? So they're two-story on the street, and then they can step back as they go back.
I mean, right here, that's a four-story.
And is it
so.
4 or 6? Somebody asked that
Yeah.
question.
Can you clarify?
I think the recommendation was up to 4. And that's kind of been the
Because-
goal that we've been going with. I don't recall where 6,
I think six
I
maybe
think s-
came from Old City Hall.
I think 6 was Old City Hall.
But at this point, it's just a recommendation, it's not paper anywhere.
Right,
You know,
there's nothing-
It still says 11 stories.
Currently, the code, if somebody were to come forward today, could build something up to 10 stories or 135 feet, including the properties on Vine Street.
Shh, don't say that out loud. I also want to throw out there walkable. We keep talking about walkable, and I don't think, the definition hasn't been, we haven't talked about the definition, because in the planning world, walkable means you have people living where the commercial is, so they walk downstairs and use it. They don't get in their car to go somewhere. So walkable is building residential and commercial close, right? So that's why this would be, I mean, it looks like cement to me, it looks like all cement, not a jungle. But it's supposed to be walkable because you're living upstairs and coming downstairs to participate,
There
right?
should be, so how I've explained it is that if you want a true downtown, it needs to be an 18-hour active place. You can't have a downtown that only works from 9 to 5, or one that works from 7 to 9 on Saturday nights. Those aren't true downtowns. Otherwise, they become unsafe for people, because there's nobody there maintaining the place. So you have to have a mix of, or an 18-hour activity time frame. So there needs to be a mix of living, of shopping, of working, of entertainment. There needs to be a holistic view of the entire area in order for it to be kind of a true city center, if that's what the community is pursuing.
What other questions you have?
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I don't honestly know if I've digested all of this well enough, but I think some of the changes that you're proposing for the code conflict a bit with what you just said about making this a 24-hour or an 18-hour walkable community. Because we're placing limitations on some of the development that might bring more people in a living situation, and that would maybe feed commercial businesses, restaurants, recreation, whatever that could be developed in the rest of that area. So I'm starting to maybe question some of the fundamental recommendations here.
Can you explain, like, limiting how? What do you?
By limiting to 4 stories, and I don't think and I'm expressing my personal opinion here, maybe, and not speaking so much as a member of the commission, but you can have the historic nature and the historic flavor of the street level, and maybe off-street allow more stories or higher density occupation that would bring more people in here, in a living situation or a business situation that would support more commercial and more walkable communities. If you don't have enough people coming into downtown, you can't have a walkable community that supports businesses that rely on.
But exactly what you're stating is also some of the problem, no one's gonna walk there if there isn't something to do there.
Well,
So it has to be an
but
inviting
that's my
space
point,
that you
that-
wanna be in, so it's this,
Well, I think that,
But I don't think what is being recommended, as I read it here in this, provides enough, enough density of people coming,
Yeah.
that are drawn into this area to support businesses that require foot traffic.
yeah, which is what the code is that we have right now. It's much higher density,
Well, and I
much
think
more,
there's a
and so,
compromise there too.
yeah.
But I think
This has been formed though based on
the compromise.
the compromise.
'Cause it was
And the surveys and the feedback and I mean, people didn't want 11 stories. They didn't want,
Well, and all I'm saying is, are we smart enough as the commissioners and right now to just off the top exclude any kind of proposal that might include something like that?
Like what?
Like, more stories or higher density occupation, or somebody that might propose a different parking approach. I just don't see how you can support businesses that require foot traffic with what you're gonna have in this proposal.
that's the conflict that we've been in since the beginning.
That's why we haven't developed
Now,
anything.
and now, I guess, and maybe switch gears a little bit. I think I'm developing a more greater sympathy for the people who want to preserve these 2 historic buildings. Now, I guess my concern with wanting to do that is, are these things even structurally capable of being upgraded?
That's the part we don't know.
I mean, that's
And
the
we
question I
don't
go back
That's
to.
why they're
because
yellow.
We don't have access to that information, and
Yeah.
certainly the mercantile building, the facade on it exists right now. Frankly, I think it's a bit of an eyesore, and it doesn't reflect the original facade on the building.
Yeah.
So, unless something can be done with that, I don't. And just my final editorial comment is, I certainly wanted to agree with the woman that made the comment about the city buildings not being coherent with this idea at all.
It's because it's a change of ideas.
Unfortunately, that.
It wasn't, the code was not
Well,
to
I know,
look historic before.
unfortunately, the
which is
time
why-
period for those comments is well past.
Well, and also in this setting, I mean, things have come to me that I dislike, but legally, if they fit the code, my job is to make sure they fit our ordinance and then approve, unless I want everything I disagree with to be sued and your tax dollars money be spent so they can be proven right. So it's tricky.
I just want to reiterate one more time, this conflict thing. It seems to me, and I haven't been on this planning commission for very long and know the history, it seems to me the community wants historic. But to do anything to revitalize the space, we need more density. So the conflict is between those two things that it seem to be necessary. I mean, can't we take that, I mean, the four-story proposal doesn't seem like it's gonna work. I mean, would that be the compromise? We preserve the historic part of it, but have higher density housing there?
Well, and we haven't defined what we need to ask the owner how much, look
Yeah,
into
I
real estate.
agree with you.
Because we don't know what we're talking about. I love that building. I love the history around it. I can't buy it. And I don't want anybody to tell me what I have to do with my property any more than I think I should tell you what you can do with your property. We need more information. So I think we need to go to the builder, go to the property owner, get seismic information, repair information, take the members to the public and vote whether we want to spend the 12 million or whatever it is to own the building or not.
I just have some thoughts. I'm not necessarily in favor of the city buying property. I don't think I think there's a time, I mean, there's a time and place for that, but I'm not in favor of us just going out and finding every historical building and buying it. If we could facilitate some of these buildings to be saved, I think that would be great. As I sat here and listened to everybody, I wrote a whole bunch of notes down. But I have all these studies that were done. I got sticky notes all over them. And, I mean, as I flip through here, I have 71% of respondents support replacing historic buildings, or at least some of them. That's all, I mean, that's a big number. There's other things in this that are like that. And if I was gonna pick what's in downtown, then, maybe we'd have a spaceport or something, I don't know, but, it doesn't necessarily matter what I want, because, I'm here looking at what Murray City wants, and, when I see 71% is in favor of replacing historic buildings with historic-looking buildings, I think that's what this plan has done. I think the point number one, and I know there's some people complaining about the pictures, and I think it's, Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, but the pictures are not what's going to happen. That's somebody that came up with some pictures to put in this plan. But the point number one in this thing is to change, to make changes
That one.
to our, thank you. Recommendation number one is to implement a form-based code that will help us move forward with a path to have a historic-looking downtown, possibly and probably with new buildings. But that's what we were told by everybody in Murray City, that they wanted us to do. They wanted us to replace some and keep some, and I think that's kind of what we're doing. I'm not necessarily against changing those two buildings to green from yellow, but I'm not sure it matters much. I don't think we should go and buy them, I guess is what I'm saying, but that's just my thoughts.
Are there any further discussions or?
Just one clarifying question for Zach.
Sure.
On that plot plan, the city.
This one?
Or at least redevelopment has control of everything except those two buildings?
Correct.
In block one.
Yeah,
In
in
block
block,
one,
in
yeah.
these two are the only
owned.
two that we don't own. That the redevelopment agency does not own.
In block one.
What?
Just in block one. Block two is a different story, right?
Are there any discussions about adding anything to their recommendation or the things that the design review committee has added for their recommendation?
Did we
you
say we
like to?
wanted to maybe consider adding incentivizing to restore as a recommendation?
Is that something like?
Is that a separate topic or is that this topic?
I don't know, I don't know,
It-
it was you
well-
that mentioned that.
It would be in response to the design review committee changing those categories from green, from yellow to green, I think you can't forward on a recommendation to do that unless you have some recommendation of how the city would incentivize a developer to do that.
I think it's important too, we've said it a lot, but just because the building was in yellow doesn't mean the city wants it torn down.
Yes, yeah.
Right? It's, that's what we're expecting to
I
happen.
mean, we could vote to change it to white, which is neutral.
Sure. Or purple.
The color, yeah, the color is not the most important part. I,
Again, with the package you provided us, and again, I'm sorry, I still feel like I'm trying to digest it. Is there one particular part in this package that is a synopsis of what you're asking us to approve tonight?
the 8 recommendations
Is
that,
it
just that,
Just,
Yep, so,
that we went through in the slides.
yeah, what we went through in the slides. So, here, I'll
One, recommendation 2, initiatives, start on page 3. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's what we would be forwarding a recommendation to the city council for. So if there would be changes to those things.
I'm not clear on what's going on.
let me see. So this is what you should be,
I think while they're figuring that out too, I think all of us
this is the.
want to do the right thing, and we want to represent what the citizens of Murray want. And I think we all, though, don't want to be sitting here in a decade from now talking again about this. And so I think this plan is a good step forward. It's just a guiding document. And I think it's a good step forward to our downtown area. No one's going to come to downtown if it stays how it is.
Is there any more discussion, or is there a motion?
Was that a motion or a statement?
This section,
That was just me talking.
well, it's a change.
Today, we're not making a change, except we're saying, start the process.
The only thing that the commission would be doing today is recommending to the city council to adopt the plan. This does not approve any development. It does not change any code. This is purely a plan document. So it's those recommendations that we went over in the slides, that is what kind of guides the city and staff moving forward.
I mean, I think I could make a motion, but I would just like to leave it open for someone else if they want to make a motion that's different than just forwarding a recommendation to the city council.
Well,
So if somebody wants to do
and my
that,
only
then
comment is
let's
when we
talk about
Make
it.
a motion and do this, given what happened a few weeks ago, I want to make sure we have an opportunity to discuss the motion and amend it if necessary before we proceed
Well,
to the question.
I appreciate that. So let's say I'm going to do a motion as it's written. What discussion would we need to talk about? So let's talk about it right now.
Yeah, let's have the discussion before the motion's made.
So this is what he's referring to,
Oh, yeah, that's just the general statement.
right?
Yeah, so let's say I say that right now. Let's talk about what those issues are. I mean, we can talk after as well, or if someone wants to modify it to include some of those other things, I'm fine listening to that too.
Well, again, I apologize, and I'm a little bit new to this process as well, so I want to make sure I understand. Right now, I don't see anything in these recommendations that really gets into that granularity of detail, even on.
Because
for
that's not
instance-
what we're approving.
Well, that's what I want to make sure I know what I'm going to vote on here. But anyway, the granularity of detail on what that plan will include, that will come back, right?
So, I think what you're asking is about like the form-based code, and when we decide to move forward with that, right?
Well, and I'm all for going to the form-based code for
Right.
this, but we're not talking about what's going to be in that code.
Correct. You are not talking about that right now. This is just saying, yes, the city should pursue going through the form-based code
right.
process.
The recommendations
This is much
of
more,
the
this,
small area plan.
as odd as it sounds, this is more fine-grained than the general plan, but it is still a broad plan. It is not,
Well, the plan itself will be more fine-grained, but right now, we're just saying, yeah, let's make a plan.
right, well.
The
no,
form-based
do
code
the
would be
form-
more
So
fine, but the
theoretically,
small
the
area plan.
form-based code could include all of the details as they're in the code right now.
It will include
Yeah.
details, yeah.
But this is something that
But I
we're
mean the
adding
specifics.
to the general plan. This is like an addition to the general plan that's guiding just this small area.
But
Correct.
it's not something we're adding yet, so we don't have to be stressed about
That's
missing the
what we'd be
details.
voting on to recommend if we recommend to the city council that they should add this to the general plan.
So the vast majority of that discussion, we have no influence over, and we're not voting on tonight.
I understand.
Right.
Is there a motion?
We're not comfortable yet.
Someone can make a motion.
Sorry. Is there, and I'm trying to, I want to validate some of the comments that were made tonight, the public comments. They will have the opportunity later to comment on the specifics
Yes.
that are in the code.
They will also have the opportunity at the city council meeting to comment on this small area plan.
So I think there was a lot of good, valid comments made tonight. Okay.
There were a lot of good, valid comments, and I agree with a lot of them. I think, again, we've hashed it out. We're making a general motion to go forward, to make a movement, and so I'm gonna make a motion that the planning commission forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for proposed amendment to the general plan, adopting the MCCD strategic area plan as reviewed in the staff report.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Richards to forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the proposed amendment to the general plan, adopting the MCCD strategic area plan as reviewed in the staff report, and a second by Commissioner Pearson. There can't be discussion on this motion because there's been
You
a
can
second.
discuss the motion, but you
Okay.
can't discuss, you can discuss the motion.
But we can't change the motion because there's been a second.
Right.
So you can discuss the motion. There's been a second.
Well, there's been a second, but we can't.
We can't, please don't speak from the audience.
Yeah, we
Thank
Ms.
you.
Paul?
Thank you.
We can discuss, you can discuss the motion and then we vote on it and we could vote no and then do
Yeah.
something else.
No, I agree. There can be discussion on the motion, but there's a second, so you can't change the motion.
We can't change, well, I apologize.
Well, I guess, is
Robert's
there a
rules,
change?
We could amend the motion, then we'd have to vote
Vote
on
and
the
do a second,
amendment,
yes.
and then we would
Is there
have to-
discussion on the motion?
And you're looking at me, and I appreciate all the time that's been spent to help educate me in this process. But no, I think I've gotten to the point where I'm ready to
Is
vote.
there discussion on the motion? All right, let's call for a vote.
Okay, Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Huristo, Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
and Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Oh, Chair Patterson.
You nodded at me like you called you. Yes. All right, motion passes. Again, you will have the opportunity to speak at the city council meeting about the small area plan as well as the form-based code when that is ready. So keep your eyes out for that stuff. Thank you all for coming. We're going to move on now back to agenda item number 4. I want to sincerely apologize to the earlier agenda items that we bumped down. I know that was a long time to wait for your agenda item, but we're grateful for the public's participation. So we will move on to agenda item number 4, a major home occupation. We'll have, is the applicant present? Yeah, okay. We'll have our presentation by Mustafa Al-Janabi. Oh, please keep your discussions outside. We're going to move forward with our meeting. Thank you so much.
Okay, ready to go?
Yep.
All right, so this is agenda item number 4 for Cecilia Nahimana for a major home occupation for a daycare. This would be the site plan.
This would be the aerial map of where it is. It is a 0.22 acres, as shown over here in the blue highlighted area. And this is where the zone is, which is a residential zone, R18. The floor plan as set up by the staff. This what it is. So it would have two bedrooms, one kitchen, a laundry room, a bathroom. This would be the first floor area. According to the applicant, there is a basement, and that basement would be locked in. That little staircase over there will be locked in with the door. What's happening, this would be the site plan, the pickup and drop-off would be on that little area over there. Entrance would be on the front of the house. There will be recommended at 12 kids to be there in the area. Business of hours would be from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Drop-offs and pickups should not be an issue according to this plan. Findings is just a daycare proposition for a home occupation at the R18 zone. Conditions will be applied in the staff report that you would have, and I will be showing the recommendations and the conditions as well. And these are the conditions, these 8 conditions. I would like to request the second condition to be amended. It's not 10 p.m. to 7 p.m. It would be from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I believe the applicant also mentioned there would be no vehicles, so that also be it. But other than that, all the conditions are set to motion, if, not set to motion, but if you approve it. The staff does recommend approval based on these 6 conditions. 8, yeah, with the exception of 2. So any questions?
No? Okay. If we could have the applicant come forward?
I believe so.
Cecilia, if you could come to
Could you
the,
come to the microphone?
to the microphone.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Have you had a chance to review the conditions?
To the house?
Can you comply with the conditions of the conditional use permit?
The condition of the house?
No, just of what things you need to follow to be able to get, on the screen.
Sorry,
That's
English
okay.
is my second language, so. No, like, the daycare will be in the morning. It'd be
The
like-
daycare, yes, yeah, we're gonna amend the hours from 6 a.m., yeah.
Yeah, I think,
You can comply?
I don't know, I don't have nothing to say about it.
Okay, and if you need to review the conditions further with Mustafa afterwards, we can go over those things later. Is there anything else you want to tell the commission?
No.
No? Okay, thank you so much. You can sit down. She's the applicant. All right, we will open this item up for public comment. If there's anyone that would like to make a public comment on this agenda item. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion. Is there any discussion from the commission, or I'll entertain a motion?
Can I ask one question, please?
Yeah.
The zoning that limits the number of children in this kind of a business,
I don't think there's zoning that limits that. I think
It's-
that
it's
that's,
the state.
well, what is that restriction that you've, I guess it isn't zoning, that you've
It's
referenced?
not zone, it's the state restrictions that you cannot have any more than 12 kids.
And that isn't based on any of the size of the building or anything?
No, it's not, no. It's regardless.
All right. All right, that's out of our purview then, I guess.
But the state restrictions of 12 kids in a building would be, the child care license would overrule that if the child care license number was smaller.
Correct.
Okay.
I was just gonna mention to remember to change the time on our
Motion.
motion.
Yeah, thank you. Is there a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion that the planning commission approve the request for a major home occupation to allow a daycare business from the residential property addressed 5948 South Starlight Drive, with the 8 conditions with one change of, on number 2, the times will be 10 PM to 6 AM.
I have a motion by Commissioner Pearson to approve the major home occupation to allow a daycare business from the residential property address 5948 South Starlight Drive with the 8 conditions of the change to condition number 2. Is there any discussion on that motion?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, can we take a vote?
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Harista,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes. Okay, your conditional use permit is approved, so good luck with your business. All right, moving on to agenda item number 5, Wendy's subdivision. Is applicant present? Oh, no? Okay. We can move forward with our presentation. Does the planning commission feel comfortable
do.
moving forward with our subdivision?
If the applicant isn't here, I move that we.
Oh, they're here. Thank you, sorry. Sorry. All right.
I'm taking this over from Mustafa, just so he can help the previous
Okay,
applicant for a
perfect,
moment.
thank you.
So this is a request from Mr. Lehman, I apologize if I said your name wrong, to consolidate the 2 lots located at 280 West, 4800 South, also known as Wendy subdivision. So it's located here. This is 4800 South here. This is 300 West, or Commerce Drive. It's approximately 1.06 acres, and the request is before the Planning Commission because there is a utility easement along this property line here that requires the land use authority to approve vacating that easement before they can consolidate the lots. It is in the MG zone, which is our manufacturing general zone. So again, here it kind of illustrates that. There's a 7.5 foot easement on both sides of the property line here, so a total of 15 feet. And they'd like to combine those 2 lots in order to expand their, the veterinary business there. So in order to do that, they need planning commission approval. Here is what the lot would look like once the consolidation is approved. So just one big lot. So here are the findings. Subdivision of land is allowed by Utah State Code. The consolidation complies with all the MG regulations, and the proposed subdivision amendment complies with the regulations of Title 16 and 17.152 of the Murray City Land Use Ordinance. So we are recommending approval for the lot consolidation, subject to the 3 conditions here. Any questions I can answer at this point?
All right, if we could have the applicant come forward. If you could state your name and address for the record.
My name is Chris Lehman. My address is 4856 Crosswater Road, South Jordan.
Thank you. Will you be able to comply with these conditions?
Yes,
Great. Do you have any other information you want to present to the commission?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, we will open this agenda item up for public comment. Is there anyone that would like to make a comment on this item? Any emails?
No.
Okay. I will close the public comment portion and bring it back to the commission for discussion or a motion.
I'm willing to make a motion on this item. I move that we accept the amendment to this Wendy subdivision to combine lots 1 and 2 and vacate the easement between those two lots.
Will you say subject to the conditions in the staff
Oh.
report?
Concurrent with the conditions that are recommended by the staff.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Henry to approve the proposed subdivision amendment for Wendy subdivision, vacating the public utility easement and consolidating lots 1 and 2 for the properties addressed 280 West and 4800 South, subject to the following conditions in the report. Is there any discussion on that motion? Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I'd like to second the motion.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Milkovich. Can we take a vote?
Perfect. Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Huristo,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Sorry for the long meeting. All right, moving right along. Agenda item number 6, Burger Station and Burger Place condominiums. Is the applicant here tonight? Thank you so much. All right, Zach.
Okay, so this is a request from Mighty Munchkins LLC and Caltech Holdings LLC to vacate the Burger Place condominiums, which are these properties here. So it's an office condominium, and then create a new 3-lot subdivision on the property. Let's see. It's approximately 9 acres. So the original request was on June 15th. It was proposed to only be two lots instead of 3. And so, yeah, it's eliminating Unit 1 and Unit 2 along with the common area. As you can see here, this is the current condominium plat. So they would be vacating that and creating a new 3-lot subdivision. So this would still be retained and held by Caltech. And then Lot 2 and Lot 3 are under Mighty Munchkins LLC. So, like I said, you heard it on June 15th, where it was just 2 units. Now it's requesting for 3. The intent is to develop a multifamily project on lots 102 and 103/3. I do go back and forth because some of the plots say 3 and some of them say 103, so I apologize for that. And then 101 current owner of lot 101 plans to retain the existing buildings and parking area. So this one's pretty straightforward. So staff is just recommending the Planning Commission grant the approval to vacate the Burger Place condominiums and grant preliminary and final subdivision approval for the Burger Station subdivision on the properties 171, 173, 175, 177, 179, 237, 273, 277 West Burger Lane, subject to the 9 conditions. Are there any questions?
Is there any easements here that are going to be vacated?
No easements that are going to be vacated, but there is a power line, a power easement, this dash line here, that will be maintained.
Okay, if we could have the applicant come up.
We're handling.
If you could state your name and address.
Jared Shoup, 7927 South Ashley Downs Court.
Thank you. Have you had an opportunity to review the conditions?
I have.
And will you be able to comply with those?
I will.
Great. Is there any additional information you'd like to give the commission?
Not at this time.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll now open this item up for public comment. If there's anyone that would like to come and make a comment on this agenda item. Have been any emails? Oh,
Lon Carlston, 2626 East Eagles Landing Cove. My question is this the same one that's on the agenda for the 400 units on Burger Lane?
So this is different. This is making a subdivision of that
So
property.
that one's coming up next?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other comments?
My name's Jennifer Richardson, 176 West Burger Lane. It's not really a comment, it's more of a question. Will the Burger House, I think that's 171, are they planning on tearing that down and building from there back? Or is that a whole different project altogether?
Yeah, we can address that question after public comments. Thank you. Any other additional comments? All right. Any emails? I'll close the public comment portion. Zach, do you know, or should we ask the applicant?
Yeah, so I believe she's referencing this house here. And I believe the applicant has purchased that property and this is part of the next
Right.
item, but it still pertains. It will be demolished as part of that
Yeah, so
development.
they had to do this stuff to create these lots before they could do the next agenda item, right?
Correct.
That's- Okay.
Yep.
So, is there any discussion from the commission? Or is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that the planning commission grant approval to vacate Burger Place condominiums and grant preliminary and final subdivision approval for the Burger Station subdivision on the properties located 171, 173, 175, 177, 179, 237, 273, 277 West Burger Lane, subject to the 9 conditions.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Richards to grant approval to vacate the Burger Place condominiums and grant preliminary and final subdivision approval for the Burger Station subdivision on the properties listed, subject to the 9 conditions. Is there any discussion on that motion? Is there a second?
I could second the motion.
We have a second by Commissioner Malkovich. Can we take a vote?
Yes. Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Haristo,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes. All right, so moving on to the next part, that is also part of that, is the Murray Station Apartments. And we will get a presentation by Zach before.
Yep.
Talk to the applicant.
Perfect. Yep, so this is a request, again, by Mighty Munchkins LLC, for the development of 423 multifamily dwelling units and approximately 1,185 square feet of commercial space. So currently, this property is largely used as a landscaping business, Tuck Landscaping. They're under contract to, or I apologize, I believe Mr. Shoup already owns the properties. And is pursuing this project. So it's 7.31 acres, and the purpose of the MCMU, which this property is located, is to encourage redevelopment around the Murray Central Station to allow for better pedestrian-oriented design and include neighborhood-oriented retail. So then jumping right into the, the site plan. So you can see here, this is the proposed development. So the building will be here along Burger Station. So there will be 3 points of access. So our engineering standards requires that anything over 100 units requires a secondary access from a street. So you have 2 accesses on Burger, one located here and one located here, and then a third access that punches out to Commerce Drive behind the Caltech property that was previously discussed. So the allowed density in this area is 65 units per acre. They are proposing 58 units per acre, which is less than the max allowed. Commercial required is 1,187 square feet, and the proposed is 1,185, and I put a little asterisk there because I'll get into it in the next page as to why they're less than that. Parking in the Murray Central mixed-use zone. So you can see here, I've included this table. So in phase one, so I apologize. I broke them out by studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, in the commercial space. So the number that's important here is the requirement of 546 spaces. 256 are required in phase one, 290 in phase two. Again, phase one is up here and will consist of the approximately 199 of the units, and phase two will be the remainder 224. But phase one will include the entire parking garage, which I believe is 469 spaces in and of itself. I have a phasing plan that I'll get into on one of these slides as well. So going back to the commercial, the required is 1,187, the proposed is 1,185. So they are allowed to reduce their commercial requirement based on this table here. So they're allowed to do 75% of the commercial if they fulfill one of the options on the table. They elected to do the 2 additional outdoor amenities and a 5% increase in total open space. So that increases their required landscaping from 47,829 square feet to 63,674. So over an acre on both sides of that 7 acres is going to be landscaping and open space. Required amenities, they are required to have 5 without that reduction. With the reduction, they're required to provide 2 additional. And I'll try to map some of those out now. So the club room and fitness center, 2 different amenities. They are located here. And then you have 2 sky lounges. So this will be on the 4th floor up here. And then the second one will be down here in phase 2. You have a north pool area located here. And then a north courtyard here. And then the south pool area located here. And then the south courtyard area here as well. And then there are 2 TBD to be determined spaces, amenity spaces, which we've asked the Planning Commission for permission. The planning staff review those when they're ready to submit for building permits for phase 2. Just because they are a little ways out and they will be building this section, we'll be building this section first. And so working with staff to develop amenity space as that starts to fill in, as that first phase starts to fill in, they can kind of gauge what additional amenity space they might need. So moving on to the phasing, I put these pictures in here of what it's proposed to be, and it actually kind of segues really nicely into the height. So these are approximately 4 stories, and the height is about 50 feet. So if you have been in the Burger Lane area, you'll know that it actually dips down really far. So this evening I measured that out. So at the bottom of Burger Lane, between the bottom of Burger Lane and the top of the front runner tracks is about a 30-foot drop. So these will really only pop up about 12 feet above the tracks. So these are kind of, and one of the things that Mr. Shoup didn't want to do was go a full 7 stories either. He wanted this to be a little bit more low key, at just the 4 stories instead of the, like Murray Station, but Murray Crossing and the Current as well. Here's another picture of renderings for the area. This is kind of on the east side. So that access road on the east side exiting onto Burger. This is kind of where it starts to build up to the front runner line. So phasing. Phase 1 includes the 199 units initially proposed. The central parking garage, all the access points, those would be required. So installing this and then all the way around for emergency access. And then also a portion of the surface parking area. Phase 2 would include the remaining 224 units, the commercial space, and the remaining surface parking area. There was a condition in your staff report that staff has recommended that a temporary fire access be granted or some sort of turnaround to get over into this section here, just so that fire has adequate access while between the two phases here, since there is not a connection from here to here. Let's see. Some elevations of the property. It is going to mostly consist of siding, brickwork, and stucco. And so this is the north elevation. This is what would be facing onto Burger Lane. This is the phase 1 side, so this is the parking garage. You can see sorry, that's supposed to say west elevation, not south. So east elevation and the west elevation as well. And then sometimes these elevations are really hard to see. When they're so far zoomed out, you can't really tell that there's brickwork there. So I tried to provide a zoomed in version of that, showing that it's a mix of brickwork here and here, as well with some siding located there. So one of the things that the Planning Commission has to consider for these master site plan approvals are the big list of site plan requirements. So these will be memorialized in that development agreement that they will have to enter into that codifies the phasing. It's a contract between the city and the developer. Make sure that the phasing is all done adequately, and if for some reason this developer only builds phase 1, for example, that the next person that buys the property will have to develop phase 2 or come back to the Planning Commission to amend their agreement. So just go over the 5 items. Building orientation, so everything needs to be oriented towards the street where possible, which they have done. The requirements are located there. Central feature, so the central features are more common on horizontal mixed-use projects, where this one is largely a multifamily project with a tiny bit of commercial. We figure the open courtyards and green space around the commercial applies as their central feature area. It connects to that into the area well. Outdoor spaces, this actually has a lot of outdoor spaces for courtyards, for official courtyards, I should say. Let me go back here, because if you do notice, there's another little courtyard space here and another open green space here as well. And one thing I did forget to mention.
Zach, where was the first green space? Sorry.
I
saw the second one.
This one, there's one located here as well.
Thank you.
One thing I did forget to mention, that in the code, that there cannot be more than 300 feet of a building without a break. So this red maroon color is their break. It's going to be a publicly available paseo that kind of goes through the entire project. So that provides open space and continuity through there. So it'll be available for people to walk through at all times. Let's see, I was back on this. So yeah, outdoor spaces, I think they've done a really great job providing a lot of different types of outdoor spaces, the rooftop amenity, the courtyards, the pools, things like that. Development agreement, this is just saying that they will, this staff report serves as the first review of drafting that development agreement. This is the Planning Commission reviewing it, and then we'll get more into the legalese side of it with Mr. Richardson over there. And then lastly are the application requirements. They did provide everything, so an adequate public utilities and facilities review, public services review, parking analysis, and traffic impact study. So findings here, the proposed mixed-use development is consistent with the goals and objectives of the general plan. The land use 1150 high-rise multifamily residential is allowed in the MCMU zone, subject to conditional use approval by the Planning Commission. Horizontal mixed-use developments are allowed subject to master site plan approval. And with the conditions, the proposed development complies with the requirements of the Murray Central Mixed-Use Zone and other applicable standards. So with that, we are recommending that the Planning Commission approve the Murray Station Apartments, subject to the 9 conditions listed. Any questions? Well, what questions?
I had a question regarding the parking structure.
Sure.
How high, how high is that? Will you
It's
be
gonna
able-
be about the same height, I think 4 stories.
So you won't be able to see it behind?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then-
the housing wraps the structure
Okay,
entirely.
got it. And then that parking structure will handle all the parking for the entire development. There won't be any ancillary parking anywhere else.
There won't be any ancillary, but there will be some surface parking located here that's
Okay.
required. Because the structure provides 469 spaces, and so it's about 100 additional spaces they need. But this will easily handle the remainder of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you just want to call out that parking is prohibited on Burger Lane
Yes.
as part of the condition.
Yeah, parking is prohibited on Burger Lane. The city engineer did call out that no parking on Burger will be allowed.
I have a question. The 20% open space, is that's not including, I'm assuming, the rooftops? That's not being included in that, correct?
I don't believe it is, no.
Or the pool area? Wasn't there a pool area?
I believe the pool area does count towards that open space.
Okay, but then it would have to be open to the public.
No,
not
no.
necessarily.
Okay, the open space, I mean, I just read the code, and the open space says it has to be available to the public from how I read it.
Well, are
Well, I
they
mean,
doing?
Not the amenities.
Right.
The amenities are different, but the open space, from what I read, it needs to be open to the public.
Okay, then it wouldn't be included in that then. Again, I apologize, this was Susan's project and she
Okay,
did
no, that's
a
okay.
lot of
We
the
can maybe
reviewing
ask
of
the
it.
applicant, let's take a moment.
Yeah.
Does that 20% depend on the density or the height, number of stories or anything? Is that just land area?
Just land area.
Do you have a question, Lisa?
Zach, can I ask a question about the master site plan? The outline here states that there's 6 components that need to be addressed, and we've addressed the phasing of the residents, we've addressed the residential density, we've addressed the parking use, and the establishment and maintenance or enhancement of commercial elements. I don't know if we've addressed the buffering to adjacent single-family resident zones or adequate public facilities and service. Could you, it might be in there, I just missed it.
They weren't in the presentation, but they are in your packet. So all the will serve letters were provided in the packets from all the various departments. And then as well as there is no single-family residential zoning. So there's nothing to buffer from it.
Okay, and the will serve letters are addressing which of these? Adequate public facilities and service?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's,
Oh,
so for the
Plumbing,
utilities. Yep.
utilities, electricity.
Yep, and I think there's even one from the school district.
Yep.
And,
I highlighted each
yeah.
of them.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other additional questions?
I see in here, it looks like you've addressed the water division's comments, but
Correct.
it's in this memo that you've included, it looks like they didn't give you anything.
So in the initial, that's really what they're looking at is, what those reviews are based off of are meter sizes which I had a pretty thorough conversation with Aaron Frisk, he's the water superintendent, because that was a concern, as I was writing this up is, you know, do I need to put this on hold until that's addressed? And he said that, no, they have the capacity, it's really just meeting Murray specifications. That's why on, the recommendations, the second and third recommendation or conditions are meet all Murray City Water Division requirements and wastewater requirements. We typically put those in there anyway, and I addressed it in the staff report itself as well, that those were things that came up because I was concerned about their comment at first. And those will get reviewed at the building division, when they're submitting their building permit application. They'll go through that with a fine tooth comb.
And it's a little bit out of our area, but you don't know of anything from the city standpoint that is going to interfere with supplying them utilities?
That's correct. So when we take in these projects, these applications, they do get routed to every department in the city. And that's what those list of, in your staff report, it lists everybody's comments. And one of those, a couple of those were a little concerning, so I made sure to reach out regarding water and sewers comments, because I believe one of them said something along the lines that concerns on the meter sizing for the apartments. So again, for like the water division, that was their first comment. So those would be things that just need to, and that's why I sent the email and asked them about it, making sure that they have the capacity and it really is just something that is, they're starting to look at the fine-grained detail.
And it looks like also that they've had to almost design this whole thing a little bit around that easement from the power company's power line.
You're not wrong.
But that runs right along what they've included as basically a road around the subdivision. Is there an existing power line there?
Yes.
And one of the comments from the fire department is that they verify no overhead obstructions for their aerial apparatus and being able to fight fires on a 4-story building.
Yeah.
And it still looks like that's a question in your write-up here, so has that been addressed?
Yeah,
How
so
is that being
it will be addressed in the building permit phase. They might end up having to move the power line. That's something that they'll have to figure out in the building when they submit their building permits. They will address that, and I have a feeling it's probably, if I had to guess, and I apologize.
And we can also ask the applicant too.
Yeah,
if we
you
don't
can,
know.
definitely. So,
Hold on, we'll have you come up in just a second. Thank you so much.
yeah, so it looks like he might have an answer for that. So I'll let him
Are
answer.
there any other questions for Zach before you talk to the applicant?
Can I ask Zach one more question, just for clarification? The picture presented in the presentation is not exactly what will be built, it's suggestive of what the idea is, correct?
That's probably
I
pretty
think
close.
that's-
That's pretty close to what would be built.
Okay,
Yeah.
just like to clarify that.
Yeah,
Because they gave like samples.
yep.
Yeah. They gave color samples in there. Yeah, it's like that. Maybe that's just inside. Okay. If we could have the applicant come forward.
Regarding the power lines.
Would you just state your name and address for our
Again,
minutes? Thank you.
Jared Troop, 7927 South Ashley Downs Court. We have met with the fire department and determined the fall of those poles, and we've actually done fall studies on those poles, and they are out of the way, and they will not be interfered at all by the fire department.
Great. Have you had a chance to review the conditions?
I have.
And will you be able to comply with those?
I will.
Is there anything additional you'd like to tell the commission about this project?
I mean, are there any questions?
Any questions for the applicant?
I just
Well,
had, go ahead, no, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Just going back to the power lines before we get off of that, it looked like the issue that's written up here is just the maybe the overhead interference with an aerial,
Correct.
fire equipment, so.
And actually, Evan can give you the exact details of that. But if you go back to the site plan, the width of the road is enough for the fire truck to set out their booms and swivel without even getting close to it.
So
It's high enough that it's.
sounds
not
like
an
he's
issue.
met with the fire department and
Yes.
that they've gotten
Multiple times.
approval. So
Well,
it's
it-
in the
it was
conditions,
just
I think we
asking
can,
'cause it was-
right,
It was still
I don't know,
stated
yeah.
in here.
right. But it's covered,
That
I
was an
think it'll be covered by the conditions, so. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just had one question, and, I'm not an expert here, but as I read this, it says the project amenities, I'm reading in the code here, are for the residents of the mixed-use development, and it says that the, open space is for, I'm gonna find it real quick so I don't lie, for residents and visitors. So is the 20% open space, is that all of it, is that available to people other than residents?
It's available to the visitors as well, and I guess the common areas would be available for people walking the neighborhood if there are any.
Okay, so the spaces open that we could walk into, is that 20% number? Or is the pool space and the rooftop included in the area?
I don't know the answer to that question exactly. Would
Okay.
you know, Evan? Would you like to?
Do you want to come, yeah, you could come up and state your name and address.
Oh, it's okay. Evan Haslam, 2709 South 50 West in Bountiful, Utah. I'm the architect of the project, and yes, the 20% is just the open space exclusive of the amenities that are listed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for me before I go sit down?
Any other questions? I think we're good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we will open this item for public comment. If you would like to make a comment, you are limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Vaughn Carlston, 2626 East Eagles Landing Cove. I own the commercial building at the end of Burger Street and the 2 residential homes that are in that same cul-de-sac. So that very end of the cul-de-sac is mine, right there, yeah, no, right there. My biggest concern is how the construction and how it's gonna take place to make sure that the access road is put in first. And because you guys say you've been down to Burger Lane, it's a narrow street with no sidewalks, and it's already a bad place to get in and out. And we have to run our business there. There is 7 other businesses on that street with, I think, 2 other residential houses right there. And of course, with Tuck being gone and the very end, that takes those businesses away. But my biggest concern is access and dirt and debris will be developed on Burger Lane because it already is from Tuck. I was hoping that the access would all the construction would take place from the new access, and they wouldn't use Burger Lane because they have a big enough spot there to facilitate all that. So that's my major concerns, are just what it's gonna do to Burger Lane, because there are 2 accesses to Burger Lane, and you put 191 people more onto Burger Lane. What's that gonna do to that street? And you guys already know what it's done down to Third West, if you go down at Third West and all the debris that's on that road. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Jennifer Richardson, 176 West Burger Lane. It's the house from the circle right over, over. That way, right there.
This-
Um, Yeah, that one. I do have to kind of follow up with what he said too, is, right in front of where my house is, there's a manhole cover. With the already amount of traffic that we have going up and down with the bigger trucks, years ago, we were told that over a certain ton was not allowed on that street because it was breaking it down. It continued, and now to the point where it's finally, where the sewer line, the manhole cover is completely broken around that area. So I have to agree with him, with the flow of traffic that we have, it's going to break it down even more, the more cars we have going up and down.
Thank you. Any other comments? Have you received any emails, Zach?
Sorry, just checking. Okay, no.
No? All right. I'll close the public comment portion, and bring you back
Yeah,
to answer those.
and that's definitely something we can work with Mr. Shoup on is the staging as it moves forward. We are cognizant of that is a pretty narrow road and that there are existing businesses that will have to continue to operate. Our engineering staff is very pretty strict when it comes to staging their projects. And I also encourage, if you guys do end up seeing something, the slightest dust on the road, please give us a call. We can send out people. Yeah, and I understand, yeah, it's, the landscaping business is really.
I was gonna
yeah,
say,
oh, I
Jeff.
know. It is really hard. The landscaping business definitely doesn't
That-
help it.
Mine is totally concrete.
Yeah,
But you guys may be doing.
yeah,
I get no debris.
yeah, exactly. And so I think that will improve once this project builds.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, Zach.
yeah.
If because they will have to, as part of their conditions, develop a site SWIP plan that
Definitely, yes.
will be controlling and mitigating things coming off of that property, which
Correct.
the business there right now probably doesn't have
Doesn't,
anything
yeah,
that's
right,
controlling their
right.
debris and things that they're taking onto the road. So, yeah.
Somebody earlier had a question, asked a question about requirements for adjacent residential properties.
Yeah, there's nothing
And you said there weren't
adjacent,
any, but these two across the street don't.
but they're not
apply to that.
buffering this property.
It's single-family residential zoning,
And it's not
not
zoned for
use.
It's the
Yeah.
zoning, not multi, okay.
Yep.
How
very-
wide is the road?
Pretty narrow.
That's a great question. I don't know the answer
I'm just
to.
wondering if it's not wide, if it probably meets whatever code, but
It does meet, yeah, I mean, it is,
does it make sense to widen it as part of the project? I know that throws off the architecture, but.
Well, and along that same thought, Zach, I'm not a traffic engineer, so I will lean on the traffic engineer. I'll yield to them. They know more than I do about traffic, but I do find it interesting that these two exits are considered, I don't know, can you point to where I'm pointing? These two exits are counted in the three exits, when the reality is, if this one is blocked, this one is too, because it's a dead end.
and you're right, I mean, those are just 3 points of access. That's why we require, because that technically is only considered one access. That was part of what Mr. Shoup has had to deal with, is that's 1 point of access. So your second point of access is off Commerce, which is what he's been working on, is getting that second point of access.
And
So
I
yes,
just-
there are sorry,
Oh, no, go ahead.
since there are 3 accesses, but there are only technically 2 points to different streets.
I just want to, for the public, let you know that condition 1I is that you must avoid using Burger Lane for construction, staging, dumpster services, emergency services, vehicles, deliveries, tenant parking, and moving trucks. So that is in the conditions, to try and keep that off of Burger Lane.
And yeah, like I said, our engineering staff's really, really strict when it comes to that stuff.
Any further discussion, questions?
I just was looking at the plot. Is the other access road that is gonna be put in there wider than Burger Lane?
I don't think so. This is only showing the public improvements. This is just sidewalk and landscaping. Burger does go kind of across here. You can see.
That's written in here
It said, I think, 26.
Yeah.
Like around, the road around.
The access
private
is
road?
about 26, yeah.
Oh.
But Burger is wider than that. It probably doesn't feel like it, but it is a little bit wider than 26.
Zach, I had a sorry.
Sure.
I had a comment about, maybe indirectly, but the second speaker had an issue, it sounded like an infrastructure project or problem in the road there with the sewer or the manhole cover.
Yeah.
Is that something Public Works needs to get engaged with?
Yeah, and I think, so that's a good comment. I was looking at the wastewater comments to see if there was something specifically, sorry, I'm just reading through them real quick to see if it's something that needs to be, if they've addressed it already. So I have a feeling, so on the Water Division's comment, the last one, that it mentions that even though Burger Lane is not in our master plan to improve, the Water Division recognizes the benefit to the public in our water system by upsizing and replacing the water main on Burger Lane. We are willing to provide all fire hydrants and valves for the project that will be installed on Burger Lane and Commerce Drive. So I have a feeling that's probably what they're meaning on that, and working towards that. Because without knowing, I don't know what that manhole covers for, if it's for water or if it's for wastewater.
And I read that sentence over and over again, and I asked someone I know in the water industry to read it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was implying that the applicant is replacing, Water Division recognizes the benefit to the public, and the
the
applicant was
water.
upsizing and replacing the water main on Burger Lane.
I believe that's the case. Yeah, I think they might be working together.
But that's, okay.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion, or is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I can make a motion for the Planning Commission to grant master site plan design review and conditional use permit approval for the Murray Station, I'm on the right now, apartments on the properties located at 171 to 237 West Burger Lane, subject to conditions 1 through 9, as discussed.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Malkovich to approve the conditional use permit for the Murray and design review. Planning Commission to grant master site plan design review and conditional use permit approval for the Murray Station Apartments at the properties located 171 to 237 West Burger Lane, subject to the 9 conditions. Is there any discussion on that motion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, I have a second by Commissioner Richards. Can we take a vote?
Yep. Commissioner Milkovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Richards.
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Commissioner Haristo.
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson.
Yes.
And Chair Patterson.
Yes. It is approved, so congratulations and good luck with your project. Okay, at this time, it has been a long meeting, and we would like to take a 5-minute recess before we do agenda items 8 and 9. So thank you for coming, and please stick around if you're here for those agenda items.
Oh, 8 and 9, yeah, that's right. Interesting process. There is, I mean, there's a lot of passion for historical. But it's, not economics. Make that determination.
let you know about this, remind us if we take it. Yes, that's actually not a conference room, that's, just like,
Do you want one? There's something great. Zach's in there. If you need somebody to buzz you in. Do you guys need a water? I know, exactly. Go ahead, Lisa. Yeah, and then. You're good.
What was that lady up here for?
You should throw it away. They don't want it. Okay.
Owned A1 agricultural. And the future land use map indicates it as parks and open space. As mentioned in your staff report, I couldn't, in the 2003 future land use map, these were designated as low-density residential pieces of property, and I can't find anywhere any discussions or anything as to why that would have been changed. The city's not planned anything for parks and open space in this area. And yeah, we have no intention on developing a park or trail in that area. So the applicant has requested that that be changed to medium-density residential. The reason for that medium-density residential is that's the first zoning district that allows that R16, which is a 6,000 square foot minimum lot size for single-family zoning. Couple things going over the general plan. So a little process here, in order to make a recommendation for the zone map amendment, first the general plan amendment has to come first. So I'll kind of go over some of the general plan considerations here. So objective 9 of the general plan, of the land use and urban design element of the general plan states provide a mix of housing options in residential zones to meet a diverse range of needs related to lifestyle and demographics, including age, household size, and income. So one of the strategies there is ensure residential zoning designations offer the opportunity for a spectrum of housing types. We believe that R16 is a good size. If you all remember during the legislative session, the governor wants to focus on smaller lot, single-family homes and starter homes. I feel like this is a good approach to that, allowing those 6,000 square foot lots as well. In the neighborhoods and housing element, objective 1 and objective 3. So objective 1, preserve and stabilize current neighborhoods. So a couple of the strategies here. So implement transition housing types that would integrate well with surrounding single-family dwellings and create physical and visual transition from commercial developments. This doesn't necessarily abut commercial developments, but it does allow for a transition of housing types. Smaller single-family homes allows for an easier, a lower cost property ends up being some of the higher, some of the cost prohibitive elements of obtaining a home. And support residential infill projects of a compatible scale and form. Again, just because these would be a smaller lot size doesn't mean that the house would be any necessarily smaller. They could still build quite large houses on 6,000 square feet. Objective 3, encourage housing options for a variety of age, family size, and financial levels. Again, this speaks to the same stuff. Support a range of housing types. Promote the construction of smaller scale residential projects that are integrated with current and future employment. Yeah. And let's see. So now going over kind of the proposed uses or the allowed uses in the two zones. In the existing agricultural zone, it allows for single-family dwellings on a minimum of 1 acre, medical cannabis pharmacies in production, parks, orchards, vineyards, non-commercial beef, and conditional, or cattle, sorry, horses, chickens, rabbits, all that fun stuff. Conditional uses are commercial husbandry services, commercial agriculture, schools, nurseries, cemeteries. The R16 zone pretty much allows the exact same stuff, just take out the agricultural portions of it. So single-family dwellings, utilities, charter schools, conditional use, you have churches, schools, cemeteries, group instruction. Some of the zoning standards in both of them. So single-family lot size in the A1, like I mentioned, is 1 acre in the A1, 6,000 square feet per lot in the R16. Height is 35 or 40 with a conditional use permit in the A1. In the R16, it's 30 feet. Then you can see your setbacks there. Front yard setback is 30 and 20, 25 and 25 for the rear setback. Side yard setbacks are 10 and then 5 in the R16. And corner yard setbacks are 20 on both. Parking is the same, 2 spaces per dwelling So the findings, general plan provides that flexibility in execution of the goals and policies based on individual circumstances. The proposed zone map amendment from A1 to R16 has been considered based on the characteristics of the site and surrounding area, and the impacts of the change can be managed with the densities and uses allowed on that zone. And the proposed zone map amendment from A16 conforms to important goals and objectives of the 2017 general plan and will allow appropriate development of the subject property. So we are recommending both the general plan amendment and the zone map amendment. So if you'll remember, these are 2 separate agenda items, and they are just being presented together for time.
And we'll have one public comment.
One public
Portion,
comment
not
portion,
for
correct.
both. Okay. Are there any questions for Zach? No? All right.
I assume the selection of R16 was just because it allows a higher density than the adjacent areas? R18 and R110, I think it is.
No, not necessarily. It was just that was the application that the applicant submitted to us.
Any other questions? All right, if we could have the applicant come forward.
Jake Larson, 1101 West Ropekey Drive, just on the other side of the river, stone's throw away.
Yeah. Great. Do you have any additional information you'd like to give the commission about these changes?
Not this time. Appreciate Zach. It was a good presentation. Hit all the major points, so.
Great.
I don't really have anything else to add unless there's clarifications based on public comment I can
Okay.
address.
Does the commission have any questions for the applicant at this point? Okay. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, we will open this item for public comment. If you would like to come to the podium and state your name and address, we would love to hear from you since you've stayed this whole meeting.
I'm Brittany Powell from 1156 West Cumulus Crest Way. And I just have some questions that I think are important to consider and gather more information on regarding the potential zoning changes prior to moving forward with the decision to rezone. We want more clarification around what we are defining as the plan for medium-density housing. What the story limit, I know you've indicated the height limit. We would like information on the story limit. How many residences are being considered within this space? And then where on the actual property is the potential housing plan to be located? There are concerns from other citizens within the 400 feet of the property regarding townhomes rather than single dwelling homes. And we're curious, I know you mentioned that there is no planning for Parks and Rec, but what considerations have been given to green space alternatives that would allow it to maintain the zoning as parks and open space and agriculture rather than additional medium density residential? Or at the very least, consider zoning it for just the low density residential. Citizens in that area are concerned about increased traffic for medium-density housing that could bring. It's already a pretty high-trafficked area, high-traffic area flow with high foot traffic because of the Jordan River Parkway Trail. And just on a little bit more of a personal note, this part of Murray is more of a rural-type space with horse pastures and larger green spaces, including the Jordan River Parkway. And that's a really big part of the appeal people have in moving to this section of the city. So depending on what the definition of medium density housing actually means with the particular plans to change zoning, that could potentially turn this into an area that's actually more of an urban design with higher density housing that doesn't match with the energy or aesthetic or appeal or charm of this particular area. We chose to move to this neighborhood precisely because it had single-family dwellings. We love the Jordan River Parkway. We love the more natural appeal of the area. We moved to this part of the quiet Jordan River Murray area precisely because it seemed a safe bet not to undergo the higher density urbanization that other parts of the city face that are adjacent to bigger roads with more capacity for all the high traffic. We did understand when we moved into this lot, our house backs up right to this property, and we understood when we moved there that it was only a matter of time before the last scraps of land in Murray got gobbled up by development. But we do hope whatever is built there will match with the strengths and the charms that make this area such a delightful place to live. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm here for entertainment. So my name is Dan Potts, and I live in Poplar Grove at 415 South, 1000 West. I'm the one of the past presidents, three-time past presidents of the Salt Lake County Fish and Game Association. We were started around 1900, and we incorporated in 21. So 3 years ago, we held our 100-year anniversary party up at this place, Monument. How cool is that? So we're the oldest wildlife organization in the state of Utah. We started as a hook and bullet organization, and our original property was on 7th East and 33rd South. It was just barely up above that intersection. We had a fish hatchery that we started back in the day, and we had a lot of hunter education instructors that some are still instructing today, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we basically helped to start the state's Fish and Game Agency that changed their name to the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources in I think 72-ish, I think, or 60, anyway, 1970s. So we moved from that property down to Murray because we were being crowded out by development. No surprise, right? So, and you can't even see where we used to be now. It's all, apartments and, contraptions and stuff. So we moved to get away from all of that. But we knew, just like was indicated, we knew that we would be overtaken by development. And, if you want to see a development, that's 22 acres developed by Ivory Homes that completely, almost surrounded us in our little property there. And that's much fill. A lot of problems, and they screwed us over a bunch of times, different ways. But we want to have some meetings with Murray Cove HOA and the other residents down Bullion Street, just so that they know not only who we are and what we represent for all these years, but also to help them to understand that we are the owners of that entire property all the way to the river. And we in fact traded a parcel from Ivory Homes so that we could develop a nature preserve. How cool is that? So we took the rest of our property, we divided it in half, and we're the sellers. We'll sell half of it to Lartet, and then we already agreed that we are going to create a nature preserve, a wildlife preserve on the rest of that property against the river. And it's a preserve because it'll be totally isolated, chain link fences and all, so you can see through. And it's primarily going to be designed for two things: for fishing for young kids, once a year maybe, and also birds, because we are living the biggest flyway in the West, pretty much, between the largest bird refuge in North America, the Bear River Bird Refuge, and those birds are going all the way south. So we just are a stopping spot along the river, and we're going to have 2 ponds with 2 fish ponds there that we won't stock, but the fish will come in with our irrigation water from our irrigation canal, the North Jordan. And so I just want to make sure that people understand that we are entirely in favor of this sell. That's so that we can use the money from the sell. We switched over from our association to becoming a DBA. So now we're the Salt Lake Fishing Game Foundation. We cut out the word county. We're never part of the county. We cut out the word that, and then we added foundation at the end. We donate money, small amounts of money, to startup organizations that are benefiting nature and wildlife in the state of Utah. And we've done that for, more than 100 years now. And so we feel pretty confident of that. So I have one document that I would like to hand to Murray City. It's just a to whom it may concern. It's just titled, Leaving a Wildlife Preserve Legacy, and so we voted on this and passed it a number of months ago, and so we're off and running. We got 3 grants from the Forestry, Fire, and State Lands to do recreational development there and plant trees. We used Tree Utah and the Jordan River Commission, their wherewithals and whatnot. We donated monies, and we got about 200 and some odd trees and shrubs planted in that parcel that we traded with Ivory for. But that parcel is still zoned. We've been paying taxes on that all this time for houses. Well, we need to get that changed, so that's why I want to give this to the city, so that they can at least it's just to whom it may concern, okay? So that they know that we're moving ahead with this effort, and that we hope to work with Murray in the future on that nature preserve. Murray was the most well-known nature-oriented metropolitan area in the entire Jordan River corridor. It has the first nature center, the Kennecott Nature Center. We were going to build a nature center on our property back in the day, and we're going to sell we're going to develop half of that property. We decided not to do that at the last minute because of the nature preserve that Murray created. So we're very excited to participate with Murray in the future. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, had 5 minutes.
You're good. Anything?
Is he talking about this property? You
guys look exhausted. My name's Gregory Costello, 1172 West Bullion Street. I'm his neighbor. I live right across the street, and I developed 6 acres. I used to run cattle for 40-some odd years, and I sold 6 acres, and the master plan was R110, R18, and that's what I had to build. So I really disagree with the R16 because, like just all of Ivory, they're R110, we're R110. I'm in agricultural still, but I still have an acre in front of me that I can build R110s, R18s, and I think we should stick with the master plan. I love their preserve. I've been neighbors I love them as neighbors. They're a great preserve, and I just would like to keep with the master plan. I don't want to degrade our neighborhood because we have single-family residents. I don't want something that's those boxes that they put up, and you're going to be butting against somebody that's an R110. An R16 to an R110 doesn't make sense. So I just thought I'd let you have those comments, and thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sorry, father-in-law's gonna be really upset. He was supposed to be done babysitting at like 8:30. It's all right. I'm Chelsea Tripp. We live in Murray Cove. We are 5994 Murray Hollow Lane. Okay, so we're further in the neighborhood. We actually moved to this because we actually were in one of those POD developments in Midville, and we didn't like it. And I know a lot of people from the neighborhood are really concerned with what the view is going to be because it is so close to the parkway, and a lot of people, like, their families are there. There's 2 farms there that we love seeing all the time. You know, and it's just, if it does be, you know, allowed, more residents there, like traffic right there's already kind of a hard thing because people are walking, crossing that street from the parkway, and that opening would be like right there by the parkway. So, because literally you have like one other house and then the road into Murray Hollow. Anyway, just, I think before this should be moved forward or approved, it would be nice to see what the plan is, because if you do allow it to change, you know, just like you guys said, like, you know, it's a different, you know, R6 to R10, you know, so. And we moved there for that reason. And we don't like seeing all of these really high townhomes, and especially all of the development that's happened off of Bullion anyway. You know, our kids' school is just up the road, and you know what? It's just gonna be increasing more traffic, and I see a lot of kids walking home from school. So, anyway, that's it.
Thank you. All right, do we get any emails, Zach? Okay, there are no additional comments? All right, I'll close the public comment portion and bring it back up. Zach, do you want to address zone changes and general plan changes without site plans?
Definitely. So we don't, the Murray City, both the city council, the planning commission, and staff do not want to see any of the plans beforehand, mostly because the city's been burned in the past by showing a plan, and then the city would approve the zone change, and then somebody would come in and change the plan. Because we can't, legislatively, we can't, approve a zone change subject to a plan. So they could come in and change it even if it didn't. So instead of showing plans, we take the, zone on its merits alone. And if that zone is appropriate for that area, that's what that's what the planning commission and the city council make their decision on. So that's why you don't see plans here. I was a planning commissioner, in Midvale, actually, for a number of years, and I actually saw a couple of those happen just in my time being there, where we were presented something and then, you know, when it's under construction, it looks completely different, and they're like, well, there was nothing we could do. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. So I do understand, it does help to understand if, you know, what's gonna be proposed there. From my understanding, Jake Larson is, I don't know how familiar you are with him, but he's kind of a staple in Murray. I'm gonna make him blush maybe. I don't know if he blushes. So, he is known for building single-family homes, in that area. So that's me speaking to at least to his credibility there. I don't think I quite heard it.
So she said, can you disapprove it to be single-family homes? But when you approve a zone, you approve for all the allowed uses or conditional uses of that zone, right? And so when we're making zone changes, because I've seen it even as a commissioner, is people come with these great like site plans and then it all falls apart, right? But then we have to consider it independently, because if this zone should be changed, or if we understand, you know, see the reasoning about how to make a zone change, it has to be applicable to anything that could be an allowed or permitted use in that zone, right?
I think maybe what she's saying, though, is if we don't change the zone, then it couldn't be,
It could still be
medium-density
single
housing.
family, it could still be your single family housing.
sure, but it couldn't
Yeah.
be medium-density housing,
And-
if we
Right.
didn't change the zone, right?
Right.
So to that end, we should talk a little bit more about R16. Oh, not one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, R16.
So to that end, talk about R16 a little bit more?
Can you show the map again, Zach, that shows the zoning around the property? So, I mean, if you look here, it's actually R18
Yeah.
to the south, it's R10 to the west, it's A1 across the street. Most of this area is R110 or R18. There is a neighborhood to the north, a decent-sized neighborhood that I live in is R16.
And to the east as well as R16.
There is, to the east, we have on Bullion, the
And Trip.
R16 and
Tripling.
Trip Lane, and by Riverview, is that Trip Lane?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. So we have approved some R16 in this area for smaller infill areas like this.
And all those,
Without controversy, I might add.
yeah, as you're saying, they're without controversy, the existing R16s?
No,
Not without.
Not without controversy.
Okay. And those R16s we're referring to are all single-family dwellings, right? Does R16 allow for condos?
I believe, Zach, tell me if I'm wrong here, but you could do a planned unit development and do townhomes.
You
or
can
something
do an
like that.
attached single-family, but I don't think, yes, you can do an attached product in this zone, in the R16 zone.
How large can that get?
So I did the calculation, the most you could get would be 18.
18.
Yep.
And we're probably anticipating 12.
What? Why
With-
12?
No?
Yeah, so while he's coming up to address it, so it would be, so even in an R18 zone, you could still do attached single-family homes. You would get 13 at that point. In an R110, you could do another one. They would just be a little bit more reduced. I didn't do the
Wait,
calculation.
so you just say in R16, you could R18 and R110?
Do attached?
You can do
Okay,
attached
okay.
dwellings in
That's
any
what I thought.
PUD.
I just was making sure.
Yeah.
One of the, before we go to that, one of the people that commented said something about the general plan. Is there any future looking on the general plan that made a recommendation for this area?
No, that, you're looking at it.
What it is now with the agricultural?
Right. Well, so it's designated as parks and open space, not agricultural.
On the future plan.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the intent on this one, again, there is a plan in place, and it's 11 single-family dwellings, just slightly smaller than the ones you'll see in Murray Cove in the R18 zone as far as square footage above grade. So very conducive in look and feel towards every which direction. Again, I live close, so again, I'm very cognizant of what is here, both in traffic as well as flow of pedestrians, because again, there are lots of people that use the trail, and the trailhead is essentially 200 yards down the road. And so again, it's very mindful and taking into account all of the surrounding home developments, and it will flow very seamlessly with this development as well. So again, the single-family dwellings, no accessory dwelling units will be attached, and it will be very similar look to everything around it, Murray Cove, up in the Goff development to the north. So again, very easily flow.
What I just heard you say, and what Zach just said, is if you want to put 11 sites on here, is there a reason it couldn't be R18 then?
It just reduces the number of homes.
Well, he just said there could be 13.
Again, land area, there's no way.
I think you said 13 attached.
Total,
Attached.
yeah. So by land area, if I just do the raw density calculation, it would be
Meaning leaving out the.
leaving out a public
Road,
road.
yeah.
Public
Yeah.
road, so probably less.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is usable, including frontage, square footage of the lot, again, conducive to all the requirements of development for an R16 we meet with 11. There's no more that we can get in there. So there will be a maximum of 11, period.
Even if it's 1/6.
R16.
Thank you so much.
Yep. And then again, the other question that was brought up, number of stories, it's maximum 2, very similar seamlessly towards the R110, and, yeah, address the traffic already, okay?
Great.
Other questions?
No, I think that's good.
And if you didn't hear that, I'm sorry, it's a maximum story of 2, only 2 stories.
I think that's great information that Jake just gave us, and I think if you go and look at any of these R16 neighborhoods compared to an R18, it's hard to tell the difference between them. But I think what Zach explained earlier is true. It's possible, you know, Jake goes home and somehow goes bankrupt and can't develop this property, and it could be a different developer. So that's why we have to consider this zone change on the zone itself and not on the awesome plan that Jake's gonna do, and I believe he will do an awesome neighborhood right there.
Yeah, great point. Thank you so much for making that point. And I do just want to say, I love that, the property switch that has been done by, the property owners to have a nature preserve. I think that will be great for the neighborhood and also great for this new development, so.
I wanted to make that same comment and just appreciate the historical context. I grew
Yeah.
up around this area and never knew the historical context and what your mission and vision was and is, so thank you.
Changes to zones are always challenging.
I did want to mention the traffic thing too, just because it was brought up. I drive down this road almost every day of my life, and when they were putting Ivory Homes in, well, that was a lot more homes, and that wasn't that long ago for me. And it did increase the traffic, but not too much, and I don't think you would notice much of a traffic increase from this little development compared to the Ivory Home development right next to it.
So I also live in this area, and I do see the concern around the trailhead and the future entrance point to the area. Because, there's already a lot of people crossing there, and it's already, somewhat of a concern for kids. So not sure if that can be part of the thought as that is, developed.
And so zone changes are always hard. Being on this commission for a while, every zone change is hard. I think some of us are struggling with it. I find it a little bit easier when the zone changes to single-family homes, because usually it's to something larger.
I think too regarding kids walking down that street, because my kids did that. In fact, my son still drives down this road to get to school on his bike. I think it will probably be safer with a neighborhood there than the fence right up against the sidewalk, as it is now.
I think I agree with you too. I'm thinking of when you come up and you cross the bridge and you're stopping for somebody crossing, there's more cars coming out of there. I can just imagine some blind scenarios and not seeing. Yeah.
Are you saying just coming out, just here? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so if the road's going into the two new parcels and the trailhead's right here,
The trailhead is across the bridge though, right, over
it's
here?
across the bridge.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's still a short enough distance that, and maybe not, I just think it's a real concern, I think it's valid.
I think it is a valid concern. I don't think it's gonna be that big of an issue, but I think anytime you increase traffic, you increase the
Yep.
likelihood of something happening, right?
I guess what I'm really getting at is, with the way we're crossing that road right now, maybe it's a separate conversation. There are times when people don't see the people crossing. And so maybe that's a separate conversation.
That is why they put those lights in where you can hit the light and it flashes for traffic.
Yeah, I've
but,
crossed there too,
I mean,
and
I
it
don't
does
know
get-
what else you can do
Yeah,
besides
I don't
that,
either.
but yeah. Other than put something under the road,
True.
which they have done other places.
Yeah, true. All right, any further discussion, or is there a motion?
Oh, excuse me just a second. Question, is this two separate, defined as two separate lots now?
Correct. So that actually gets into another point. Thank you for bringing that up. You guys would see this again as part of a preliminary subdivision as well. This would get publicly noticed again, so that you actually get to see the plan. I apologize, I totally missed that. It's been a long, long day. But yeah, you would get public notice if this does go through. Either way, it would, whatever he did, Mr. Larson decides to build on this property, you would get public notice of any subdivision that goes forward too.
Well, and similar to other items tonight, this is we're forwarding recommendations to the city council, so you have time to go and speak these same comments, and we encourage you to do that too at your city council meeting.
You started me early tonight thinking about easements. Is there any easement issues? I noticed that line seems to
Yeah.
continue on as something up through there.
So if there are, if and when Jake goes forward with a new subdivision, that would get taken care of in the subdivision review, when you're doing the review of any new development. So the zone change wouldn't have any effect on any easements.
Is there a motion?
Chair will make a motion that we forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested amendment to the future land use map redesignating the properties located at 1177 West Bullion Street from parks and open space to medium-density residential.
Okay, we have a motion to forward recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested amendment to the future land use map, redesignating the properties located at 1177 West Bullion Street from parks and open space to medium-density residential. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Can I ask Zach one more question?
I
With, you said the general plan right now shows that as open space?
Parks and open space.
Parks and open space? So, have you, has the Parks Department looked at this, and you said they had no plans for this?
They have no plans for it.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a second? Okay, we have, we'll take a vote.
All right, Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Haristo,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich.
Mr. Yes.
What?
You said commissioner,
Oh,
right? I
yeah,
heard
Commissioner,
Mr.
sorry, Commissioner.
It's okay.
It's just my words blurring
And I'm tired.
together.
Yes.
And Commissioner Henry
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes. Okay, so for our zone map amendment, is there any discussion or a motion?
Chair, I'll make a motion that we forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested amendment to the zoning map designation of the properties located at 1177 West Bullion Street from A1 agriculture to R16 single-family medium-density residential as described in the staff report.
Okay, have a motion to forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested amendment to the zoning map designation of the property located at 1177 West Bullion Street from A1 agricultural to R16 single-family medium-density residential as described in the staff report. Is there any discussion on that motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, take a vote.
All right, Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Haristo,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Patterson.
Yes. Okay, that will be forwarded on to the city council, and they will be making the decision. You can watch for their noticing of their meetings. We never have to use this rule, but is there any additional information?
Well,
in
yes,
1 minute?
let me go on for another half hour.
You have 1
or
minute, Zach.
45
It
minutes.
says, it says.
No, I really don't have anything. We do have a few items on the 21st.
Okay.
Not nearly as big.
Mhm.
So if you have anything,
When is the goal to get the MCCD small area plan to the city council?
we want it adopted probably by the end of April.
So at their first April meeting or their next April?
I'm hoping, it depends on when I get minutes done.
Okay,
So,
might be a hard one. All
Yeah.
right,
I'll make a motion that we adjourn at 10 PM. Thank you.
second,
I'll
so moved,
third.
you're adjourned.
okay.